Chapter 5997, The Soft-Hearted and Kind Hei Shinjo. Therefore, the people of the 10 Directions Academy watched helplessly as the usually unreachable 6 chancellors were beaten up miserably. The most surprising thing was that they didn't even have the strength to fight back. Was it because the 2 old men were too powerful, or was it because of other reasons? Director Zhao and the others were in pain, fear, anger, and shock. What on earth was going on? Hei Shinjo felt that it was about time, so she tried to persuade them. Masters, they are, after all, the directors of the branch school. It's better to leave them some face. Stop beating them. Chu Feng kicked Director Zhao again and said to Yun Chujo, "You little trash are too soft-hearted and kind-hearted. You've been bullied to the head, and you're still pleading on their behalf." Ding Wenru, who was at the side, hee, soft-hearted and kind-hearted. You must have misunderstood these 2 words. Only then did Chu Feng and Zhuangmu stop. Hei Shinjo quickly took out 2 chairs from her storage ring and invited the 2 of them to sit down. She even specially took out a tea table and placed tea and pastries on it. Chu Feng looked at Hei Shinjo, who was so obedient, and then looked at Director Zhao and the others who were on the ground with bruises and bruises. He became more and more displeased with them. President Gu felt very comfortable in his heart. Well done. Well done. However, his face was full of fear and trepidation. He said to Director Zhao and the others, "These are the 2 grand elders of our 10 Directions Academy. This is Elder Zhuangmu, Elder Zhuang, and this is Elder Chu Feng. They retired from the world 1,000 years ago and have been cultivating in the back mountain, guarding our 10 Directions Academy." Oh right, Elder Zhuang was originally the Chancellor of the Prehistoric Branch, while Elder Chu was the Deputy Chancellor of the Prehistoric Branch. Director Zhao and the others suddenly felt as if the world was spinning. What was that? There were 2 old demons in the Prehistoric Branch? It's over, it's over. If they had known that the people of the Prehistoric Branch were not all dead, they would not have done this. No wonder they did not even have the strength to fight back. The cultivation of these 2 old demons naturally crushed them. At this time, Yun Chujo sighed at the side. "Master, I knew that you guys wouldn't come out. If you came out suddenly, you wouldn't be recognized. Otherwise, why didn't they greet you too?" Director Zhao and the others almost vomited blood. They were clearly too shocked, okay? They hadn't even had the time to greet them. Hearing Hei Xinjia's words, Chu Feng immediately threw the teacup in his hand at Director Zhao. "You little brats, are you trying to rebel?" Director Zhao and the others quickly knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. They had no choice. The dire situation of the Primal Academy was right there. It was useless even if they wanted to quibble. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu saw that Director Zhao and the others were still tactful, and their anger finally subsided a little. Director Zhao, who had been beaten the most, quickly said, "Elders, I was wrong. I will punish the culprits and expel them from the 10 Directions Academy." Jian Xinjin and his lackeys in the crowd were so scared that they fell to the ground. It was over. If they had known this would happen, they would not have come to the prehistoric institution to cause trouble. They had thought that the prehistoric institution was a soft persimmon, but it turned out to be iron thorn. And it was the poisonous kind. The others also apologized and said that they had neglected their duty. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu were not so angry after beating them up. When they were about to ask them to stand up, Hei Shinjo kindly pleaded for mercy. "Masters, since the 6 chancellors have realized their mistake, let's just forget about it. As the saying goes, knowing one's mistake can improve one's life. After all, the daily operations of the upper house cannot be done without them. If the punishment is too severe, I'm afraid that the upper house will be in a mess." Chapter 5998, I'm really too miserable. After hearing the first 2 sentences, Director Zhao and the others were still in tears of gratitude towards Yun Chujo. After hearing the last sentence, they were so angry that they almost fainted. How was she pleading for mercy? She was clearly fanning the flames. As expected, Chu Feng's expression turned gloomy again. It seems that the power in your hands is really too great, so you're just drifting away. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. From today onwards, other than daily affairs, all other powers will be handed over to President Gu. Chu Feng originally wanted to say Little Gu, but after thinking about it, it was better to leave him some face in front of the students, so he changed his words. President Gu was so moved that he almost cried. After so many years, this was the first time that Little Gu had become President Gu. His longtime wife had finally become a mother-in-law. When he thought that the power of the 6 branches would be handed over to him, he was even happier. Director Zhao and the others naturally did not want to be divided, but when they thought that they had no power to fight back and did not dare to resist, they could only grit their teeth and nod in agreement. Just when they thought that the matter had finally come to an end, He Xinzhou said again, 6 directors, shouldn't the territory and things that you borrowed be returned to the original owner? Director Zhao and the others wished that they could sew her mouth shut. This troublemaker was really too wicked. Director Zhao and the others did not have the guts to lie, but they were unwilling to return the territories and things, so they began to beg for mercy one by one. Elders, we have no choice. There are more and more students, so we don't have enough space, so we borrowed a few courtyards of the prehistoric branch. Yes, we are also considering the overall situation of the academy. We can't be so idle and have no place to teach in other branches, right? We have also used those things in teaching, and it is also to improve the students' grades. We really don't have any selfish motives, it is all for the academy. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu had heard about this matter from President Gu. Now that they heard about it from Director Zhao and the others, they were not too angry. Yun Shujiu mumbled to the side, what a nice way of saying it. It's just like a turtledove taking over a magpie's nest. If you don't ask, you're stealing. You don't have the money to steal from your neighbors, so you're justified? Shameless. Director Zhao could not take it anymore. He roared at Yun Shujiu, Yan Qingqing, shut up. Yun Shujiu immediately looked at Chu Feng and Zhuangmu with tears in her eyes, Master, he's angry at me. Sob sob, he dared to bully me in front of you. You can imagine what kind of life I had in the past. It's already a miracle that we can live until now. Woo woo, I'm really too miserable. Chu Feng immediately threw the teacup at Director Zhao. You bastard, why are you angry? If you're angry again, get the hell out of the Academy of 10 Directions. Director Zhao was angry and aggrieved. He mumbled, Elder Chu, as the director, there's nothing wrong with me lecturing the students, right? Yun Shujiu immediately placed her hands on her hips. You can lecture other students, but you can't lecture me. I have a master, why would I need you to lecture me? Besides, I'm my master's disciple, and my seniority is higher than yours. If you count it, you still have to call me martial uncle. Only then did Director Zhao and the others realize that Yun Shujiu had always addressed Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu as master. Could it be that these two had taken in Yan Qingsheng as their disciple? If that was really the case, then, how would they live in the future? Wouldn't this troublemaker torture them to death? Chapter 5999. The few of you Jiu'er Director Zhao looked at Chu Feng with a glimmer of hope. Elder Chu, is Yan Qingsheng really your disciple? Chu Feng was about to deny it. After all, he had not thought it through yet when he heard Yun Shujiu point at Director Zhao and berate him angrily. Martial nephew Zhao, what do you mean by this? By asking this, do you think that my 2 masters are not qualified to be my masters? Even though I am a little outstanding, even though I made a name for myself in the 100-year grand competition, and even though there are many people who are fighting to be my masters, I am not a bastard who would betray my masters and destroy my ancestors. Once a master, always a father. In this life, in the next life, I will be the disciple of my 2 masters. Master, come, drink some tea. Don't be angry with such a fool. It's not worth it. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu, who were dumbfounded, held the teacup in their hands and opened their mouths. Before they could think of what to say, Yun Shujiu placed her hands on her hips and pointed at Director Zhao and the others. It's not that I'm praising my 2 masters. Not everyone has the wisdom of the two of them to be able to find a pearl like me among tens of thousands of people. If it weren't for the two of them carefully teaching me, I wouldn't have performed so well. If it weren't for me risking my life, the reputation of the 10-Directional Academy would have been trampled on. This was also because my master and the others had just taken me in and didn't have much time to teach me. Otherwise, I would have been a tyrant in the 10-Directional Academy. Cough cough, I'm talking about the top student. This fellow thought to herself, that was close. I almost went bald. Fortunately, she was quick-witted. This fellow hurriedly continued, Master, I believe that under the wise leadership of the two of you, our 10-Directional Academy will definitely shine. That bullshit Divine Revelation Academy isn't even worthy of carrying our shoes. It'll infuriate that ugly old man Chi to death. Chu Feng originally wanted to deny Yun Chujia's earlier words, but when he heard the last few sentences, his attention was immediately diverted. He felt that the words of the little girl in front of him were too pleasing to the ear. Yes, he would infuriate that ugly Chi Chen to death. Master and Master, they've occupied our land and robbed us of our things. Shouldn't we let them return the things that they've occupied to their rightful owners? Otherwise, they would think that our primal academy is easy to bully. If word got out, they would definitely make fun of us. They would think that your words in the 10 Directions Academy are no longer effective. Yun Chuzhou said indignantly. Chu Feng automatically brought this other into Qi Chen. He immediately threw the teacup in his hand at Director Zhao. You bastard, looking at you makes me angry. The little trash was right. The few of you should quickly return the territory and things of the primal institution, or else I'll break your legs. Director Zhao and the others looked like they were about to cry. Although they were extremely unwilling, they did not dare to disobey, so they could only grit their teeth and agree. Chu Feng was just about to tell everyone to scram when Yin Chuzhou sighed. Masters, I don't know if I should say anything. Chu Feng looked at her, if you have something to say, say it. If you have something to say, then say it. Yin Chuzhou secretly scolded this old man for being too rude, but her face showed a look of sympathy. Master, although it is a matter of course for this thing to be returned to its original owner, but in this way, it will definitely affect the normal teaching of the 6 branches. I can't bear it. You see, our prehistoric branch doesn't need such a big place for the time being anyway. It's not too late to ask them to return the place and treasures after we recruit the students. At least give them some time to recover. Chu Feng was stunned and then shook his head. You little trash are really too soft-hearted and too kind-hearted. They have already bullied you to such an extent, and you still want to plead on their behalf? What a kind woman. Chapter 6000, I am a pauper. Director Zhao and the others almost spat out a mouthful of blood. This elder Chu must be blind, right? This troublemaker has nothing to do with being soft-hearted and kind, okay? However, it had to be said that her suggestion hit the nail on the head. Director Zhao hurriedly said, Elder Chu, Yan, Martial Uncle Yan's words make sense. We will definitely return the things, but please give us some time to recover. Director Zhao gritted his teeth and said, Senior Uncle Yan, but in order to protect his territory, he couldn't care less. He finally saw through it. He didn't know what kind of bewitching potion this girl had fed the 2 elders, but they had been fooled by her. If he wanted them to change their minds, he could only place his hopes on this troublemaker. Seeing that Director Zhao was like this, the other chancellors had no choice but to thicken their skin and call him Martial Uncle Yan. It was as if He Xinjiu was going to burst with joy. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu did not want to take back their territories and things immediately. Although they wanted to revive the primeval subdivision in the future, they were not in a hurry. Therefore, the 2 of them looked at each other and Chu Feng nodded. Then there's no need to return it for now. Well, return it when we need it. Director Zhao and the others thanked him profusely and finally heaved a sigh of relief. Yan Qingcheng, this troublemaker, had finally done a good deed. Could it be that she had turned over a new leaf? Martial nephews, although this thing in territory can be lent to you temporarily, you've borrowed it for hundreds of years. Should we calculate the rent? Yun Shujo said with a smile, like a wolf with a big tail. Director Zhao and the other three were speechless. No wonder she was so kind-hearted. It turned out that she was blackmailing them. They couldn't help but think of the half-smile on Yan Qingchang's face when she rejected their offer to collect the rent. They couldn't help but shiver. This troublemaker was simply an example of seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. In the end, after bargaining, He Xinjiu extorted hundreds of millions of spirit stones, spirit tools, and medicinal herbs. Chu Feng scolded the six of them again, and under He Xinjiu's kind suggestion, he asked the six of them to come over the next day to atone for their crimes and clean the stains on the door. Only then did he ask them to disperse. Director Zhao and the others staggered out of the primeval institution. After walking for a while, they finally realized that they had been tricked again. In the future, not only would they have to return their territory and spirit tools, but they would also be extorted so many spirit stones and things by that troublemaker. It was A.H. The six of them gnashed their teeth in hatred, but they could do nothing about it. After all, that troublemaker had two big legs. They would only provoke her if they were tired of living. On the other side, He Xinjiu said with a smile, "Master, they'll transfer all the rental fees to you too. After all, you two don't have much income. These things will be enough for you to spend some time." Chu Feng immediately exploded. "Bullshit, when have I ever been short of money? Those lousy things are not worth my attention." Yun Shujo immediately smiled like a flower, "Master, since they are not worth your attention, then give them to me. I'm not as rich as you, I'm just a pauper." Chu Feng waved his hand impatiently, "As you wish. Thank you very much, Master. Not only are your cultivation high and your moral character high, but you're also so generous. I'm really lucky to be your disciple for 3 lifetimes." He Xinjia's smile was so brilliant that it blinded President Gus' face with envy and hatred. Chapter 6001, Why Don't You Go to Heaven? President Gu wished that he had such a rich master as well. So many good things, and he just gave them to this little girl, Yan Qingchang, so easily. But that was also true. These things were all extorted by her through her mouth. It was useless even if he just stared at them. At this moment, Zhuang Mu coughed. "Little girl, on account of your good performance in the 100-year grand competition, I didn't expose you just now. However, we haven't decided whether to accept you or not. When the bet is lost, don't use our name to spout nonsense." Yun Shujo had long seen through it. Although Chu Feng was usually noisy, in reality, Zhuang Mu was the one who made the decision between the two of them. She smiled confidently. "Masters, there's no need for a month's time. I can fulfill the bet now." Chu Feng was stunned at first, then he curled his lips. "Little trash, are you talking nonsense? Are you trying to say that you know all the things on the 2 goatskin scrolls?" "Yes, that's what I meant," Yun Shujo said lightly. Chu Feng's face immediately darkened. "Little trash, you're clearly making fun of us. It seems that I've been too indulgent with you." When Chu Feng said these words, he emitted a terrifying pressure. President Gus' forehead immediately broke out in cold sweat, and Ding Wenru trembled like a leaf. He Xinjiu, however, was indifferent. "Master, as the saying goes, a mule or a horse is brought out for a walk. Let's see who is the real deal." "Good, good. I see that you won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Let's not talk about other things first. You can first draw me an ice rapid condensing talisman," Chu Feng said coldly. At this moment, he was extremely displeased. He originally thought that this little girl was not bad, but he did not expect her to be so arrogant. Moreover, she did not know her mistake. She really deserved to be taught a lesson. President Gu, who was at the side, kept signaling He Xinjiu with his eyes, asking her to apologize quickly. Otherwise, this master who was about to say something might fly away. "President, what happened to your eyes? Did you have a cramp?" He Xinjiu asked with a concerned look. President Gu, Yun Shujo took out a blank jade token and a carving knife. She sat down on the ground and began to carve. Chu Feng snorted. Although the moonlight was not bad today, it could not be compared to a room with candlelight or during the day. This little trash was really arrogant to carve it here. However, she did not know how to do it. She might use this as an excuse later. It was really childish. At first, Chu Feng and Zhuangmu watched from the side coldly. They were thinking about how to teach this little trash a lesson so that. However, their eyes soon widened and they could not help but stand behind Yun Shujo. In the end, the two of them simply squatted by the side with shocked expressions. Although the lighting was not very good, they saw that the carving knife in Yun Shujia's hand was as fast as a flood dragon. It was so fast that they could only see after images. At first, they thought that Yun Shujo was blindly carving, but when they saw the runes that had already been carved, they immediately dismissed this idea. Because those runes were not only completely correct, but the spiritual power was also inputted extremely evenly. Once it was done, this ice rapid condensing talisman might be a high-grade one. However, the first part of the carving talisman would be easier, and the later part would be more difficult, so it might not be successfully carved. However, as time passed, they were stunned to find that Yun Shujia's speed and strength did not change at all. Even when she stopped carving, there were no mistakes. Please take a look, masters. Sigh, I didn't control my strength well during the first carving. The light isn't very good, so the quality of this talisman is a little low. It's embarrassing. President Gu and the others looked at the high-grade ice rapid condensing talisman in her hand. They just wanted to say, why don't you go up to the sky? Could Chapter 6002 concoct pills? Chu Feng snatched the ice rapid condensing talisman from Yun Shujia's hand. The runes on it were carved very accurately, and the spiritual power was injected very evenly. It was almost impossible to find any flaws. Most importantly, this little trash had carved it under such dim lighting. It was truly rare. President Gus' face was filled with shock, and he muttered, "It's only been 15 minutes." Even if he had carved a yellow-grade talisman, it would still take 15 minutes, right? Only then did Chu Feng and Zhuangmu realize that the little trash had only used 15 minutes to carve a black-grade high-grade talisman. Did she just say it was her first time carving it? No, that was impossible. She must have secretly practiced countless times to achieve this effect. Chu Feng said with a serious expression, "Carve another instant ground escape talisman." Yun Shujo blinked her eyes and said, "Master, let's be honest. This is my first time carving it. If the quality is not good, you can't laugh at me." Hearing that, Chu Feng was even more certain that his guess was right. The reason why this little trash could carve a high-grade ice rapid condensing talisman was that practice makes perfect. However, after 15 minutes, a high-grade instant ground escape talisman appeared in Yun Shujia's hand. The process was the same as before. It's another upper-grade talisman. How embarrassing. Hei Shinjo said with a sigh. President Gu and the others were speechless. However, they were not as shocked as before because of the ice rapid condensing talisman. Then, Chu Feng proposed a few more talismans. Hei Shinjo easily completed them all, and they were all upper-grade talismans. Actually, there were a few talismans that could be made into supreme-grade talismans. However, Hei Shinjo felt that it was too perfect all of a sudden. There would be no room for surprises in the future, so it was better to take it easy. Chu Feng and Zhuangmu went from being in disbelief at the beginning to being shocked later on. In the end, they became ecstatic. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. They had actually taken in a genius disciple. It was not in vain for them to wait for so many years. They had finally waited for a peerless genius. Even if she could not refine pills, just her talisman talent alone was enough to look down on the world. If that old brat Qi Chen knew that they had taken in such a talented disciple, he would definitely be angered to death. It was really wonderful. President Gu saw the two of them beaming with joy. He was certain that even if Yan Qingcheng's pill refining talent was not good, the two of them would definitely take her in as a disciple. Who would have thought that the little girl who had been sent to the primeval institution in a muddle-headed state would suddenly become the disciple of the Grand Elder? Things were different now. Although Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were overjoyed in their hearts, they still tried their best to suppress their joy and said, "Your talisman has passed the test. Have you learned how to refine pills? If you haven't learned it, in fact, you haven't, don't worry, masters. Although my talent in refining pills is average, I have learned it," Yun Shujiu said with a smile. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu looked at each other. They felt that they had to polish this little girl's arrogance in the future. Had she learned it too? Impossible. No matter how talented she was, it was already amazing that she could learn how to refine talismans in such a short period of time. How could she have learned how to refine pills at the same time? When they saw the pill furnace that Yun Shujiu took out, they were instantly furious. Who could tell them what was going on with the vegetable leaves on the pill furnace? I forgot to wash the pot when I was eating hot pot last time. I really made a fool of myself, He Xinjiu said as she washed the pot. It was obvious that she had done it more than once. Chapter 6003. I am not worthy to be your disciple. Chu Feng was in a bad mood. Nonsense. This is simply nonsense. You actually used an alchemy furnace to eat hot pot. Why didn't you die from eating it? To an alchemist, an alchemy furnace was an extremely important treasure. It was usually too precious to be taken care of, but this little trash actually used it to eat hot pot? This was simply an insult to an alchemist. Yun Shujiu said as she brushed the alchemy furnace, "Master, you don't know. This alchemy furnace is evenly heated and of moderate size. It's the most suitable for eating hot pot. I still have a few here. I'll treat you to hot pot some other day." Chu Feng's nose almost went crooked from anger. If it wasn't for Yun Shujiu revealing her talisman talent just now, he would probably have immediately started cursing. After Yun Shujiu finished cleaning the alchemy furnace, she started to refine the pills that Chu Feng had requested. Chu Feng saw that she did not care about the order of the ingredients and stuffed all the herbs into the alchemy furnace. Along the way, she would add herbs into the furnace from time to time and did not want to say a word. It seemed that this little trash did not know how to refine pills at all. No wonder she used the alchemy furnace as a hot pot. However, in less than 15 minutes, a rich medicinal fragrance spread out. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu stared at each other. Did they really succeed? They could succeed just by messing around? It was probably just a pot of medicinal juice. It was impossible to form pills. However, when Yun Shujiu lifted the lid of the alchemy furnace and they saw the 10 round high-grade pills in the alchemy furnace, they were instantly dumbfounded. "Sigh, I haven't refined pills for a long time. My skills are rusty, and am only at the high grade. How embarrassing. I've never been so embarrassed in my life," He Xinjiu said with a sigh. The courtyard was dead silent. After a long while, Chu Feng said in a trembling voice, "Refine another batch of foundation strengthening pills." Yun Shujiu didn't waste any time and immediately started refining. Her skills were the same as before. A moment later, when the furnace was opened again, there were still 10 round, high-grade pills inside. Chu Feng's lips were trembling with excitement. You refine another batch of spirit-capturing pills." When the horizon was revealed, Yun Shujiu had already refined 7 batches of pills in a row. The entire courtyard was filled with the medicinal fragrance. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu had already collapsed onto the ground. President Gu and Ding Wenru were both dumbfounded. Ding Wenru thought to herself, "Oh my god," even though she knew that Qingqing was a pervert, she didn't expect that she's not even human. President Gu recalled that not long ago, Yun Shujiu had said that she met the requirements for admission to the prehistoric branch school. At that time, he had scoffed at her, thinking that she was boasting shamelessly. Now, it seemed that not only was she not boasting shamelessly, she was also very modest. No, she was 100% modest. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu supported each other and finally managed to stand up straight. The two of them were so excited that tears streamed down their faces. How many years had it been? They had finally found a good disciple. It was not in vain that they had secluded themselves in the back mountain for such a long time. Even if they had missed the opportunity to develop the primeval academy, it was all worth it to have such a genius disciple. The heavens really had eyes. Yun Shujiu looked at the two old men whose faces were filled with tears. She pursed her lips in her heart. Now they knew that she was well. Didn't they call her a little trash previously? She pursed her lips. Masters, I'm really too useless. My comprehension ability is too poor. It's been half a month and I've only learned so little. I've let you guys down. I'm not worthy to be your disciple. Chapter 6004 Taking in a disciple or an ancestor. Stop it, it's not right for you to say that. My dear disciple, don't belittle yourself. You are the 10 Directions Academy. No, you are the best disciple in the world. You are the best. Chu Feng's old face squeezed out some flattery. Zhuang Mu was also afraid that the disciple that he got would run away, so he hurriedly said, Yes, my dear disciple, how can your comprehension be bad? You are the most talented child that I have ever seen. Is that so? But you didn't want to take me in before, and you kept calling me a little trash. My little heart has been hurt so badly that it's dripping with blood. He Xinjiu said with grievance. My good disciple, I was blind in the past and didn't see that you were a pearl covered in dust. You are an adult, so please forgive me this time. Chu Feng said humbly. Zhuang Mu said fawningly from the side, My good disciple, let bygones be bygones. In the future, we will definitely take good care of you. If anyone offends you, we will help you beat them up as long as you give the order. Whatever you want, just say it. Even if it's the moon in the sky, I will help you take it down. President Gu couldn't bear to look at it. Was she taking in a disciple or an ancestor? However, it made sense. Such a talented disciple should be worshipped by anyone. Yun Shujiu blinked her eyes. But, what if I'm poor? My good disciple, I'll give you 100 million high-grade spirit stones as pocket money first. If you run out, you can ask Master for it. My good disciple, take these heaven-grade herbs to nourish your body. They're not worth anything, just use them as you please. My dear disciple, although these immortal artifacts aren't much, they can be used to protect your body. Here, I'll give them all to you. The envy, jealousy, and hatred in President Gus' heart were about to materialize. How could there be such a huge difference between people? This god was too unfair. All these years, he had been scolded countless times, and he hadn't even gotten the skin of a melon seed. Yet, the little girl had easily obtained so many good things. Moreover, the most infuriating thing was that it was a gift from her son. Ding Wenru did not have any other emotions other than happiness. She knew her own limits. If it was not for Qingcheng, she might not even be able to come out of the heavenly dock, let alone reach her current cultivation level. After Yun Shujiu had almost finished looting, she said, Master, don't only care about me. My senior sister is still empty-handed. Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were stunned. Only then did they remember that Ding Wenru was a 2-for-1 disciple. Although they were not satisfied with Ding Wenru's talent, they had an agreement, so they could only AC. Moreover, even if their talent was a little bad, they had pills and good things in their hands. Even if they forcefully pulled them out, they could make the little grass grow into a towering tree. The two of them were not stingy. They also gave Ding Wenru a lot of good things. Although they could not compare to what was given to He Xinjiu, it was enough to make President Gu envious. President Gu really wanted to open his mouth and ask, Well, can I take in another disciple? Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu were in high spirits when it came to happy events. When they saw his pitiful appearance, they casually threw some pills and talismans to him, and President Gu was immediately elated. It wasn't that he was short-sighted, but the things on these two people weren't something that could be bought with money. Before they retired, they were among the top figures in the divine enlightenment continent. After so many years, they were even more extraordinary existences. Yun Shujo had earned a lot of money, and she was in a good mood. She looked at the alchemy furnace on the ground and said, "Masters, President, shall we eat hot pot?" Therefore, when Director Zhao and the others drooped their heads to wipe the door, they saw President Gu and the others happily eating hot pot. However, the bubbling thing was an alchemy furnace, right? Chapter 6005. The Miserable Six Chancellors. Master, the six chancellors are here. Let's not eat them. Hei Xinzhou shivered as if she were a doormat. Seeing this, Chu Feng picked up an empty plate and threw it at Director Zhao and the others. You are a jinx. What did you come here for? Get out of here. Director Zhao was staring at the pill furnaces. He didn't expect Chu Feng to make a move just like that. Fortunately, Chu Feng didn't use his spiritual power. Otherwise, he would have been knocked out. Director Zhao was both afraid and aggrieved. He was the one who asked them to clean the gate. Did they think he was willing to come? Just as Director Zhao was stunned, he saw Chu Feng's old face smiling like a flower. He said to Yun Shujo softly, "Good disciple, don't be afraid. Eat more." Yun Shujo mumbled, "Master, it's not good for us to eat hot pot here and let the six of you clean the door, right? What's not good about it? They deserve it. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and clean it. If you don't clean it properly, you'll be in trouble." Director Zhao and the others did not dare to disobey. They could only smell the fragrance of the hot pot and wipe the door sadly. They hated Yun Shujo and those students who splashed the dog blood in the past, but they had nowhere to vent their anger. When the door was almost finished wiping, they heard Yun Shujo sigh, "Master, this door is almost finished. But our courtyard has been dug into a mess, and there is no room for people to live in. Why don't you sit down first? I will go and do it. My good disciple, I still want to teach you how to make talismans. Let those little brats do such a rough job." Chu Feng finished speaking to Yun Shujo in a soft voice. Then, he glared at Director Zhao and the others and shouted, "Did you all hear that? Clean the gate in a while and tidy up this courtyard for me. Otherwise, don't be a director anymore." Director Zhao and the others wanted to cry, but there was nothing they could say. They could only grit their teeth and agree. They were cursing Hei Xinzhou in their hearts. As the primeval sub-institution had been messed up, Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu discussed and decided to bring Hei Xinzhou and Ding Wenru to President Gus' courtyard. President Gu couldn't ask for more. Although he couldn't eat meat, it was good to drink some meat soup. He cupped his fists at Director Zhao and the others who couldn't help him and chased after them. Seeing that everyone had gone far away, Director Zhao spat hard, "Bah! Why is that person surnamed Gu pretending to be a good person? Since he knows that the two Grand Elders are from the Primal Division, why didn't he remind us? He's obviously trying to make a fool out of us." Director Ren echoed, "You're right, that person surnamed Gu is too evil. However, the main culprit is still that Yen Qingcheng. If it wasn't for her adding fuel to the fire, we wouldn't have been punished so badly." Headmaster Zhou from the Spirit Power Division also said angrily, "That's right, that Yen Qingcheng is really a disaster. If it wasn't for her, perhaps nothing would have happened to our Spirit Power Division's Beiyu. Let's not talk about anything else. Just thinking about the spirit tools and spirit stones that were extorted by that troublemaker makes me want to strangle her to death." Headmaster Sun from the Array Division gritted his teeth and said. The few of them cursed for a while. Director Zhao's eyes flashed as he said, "Brothers, we have failed this time. However, there is still time in the future. The two Grand Elders cannot always protect that troublemaker. We will find an opportunity to deal with her properly. It is not difficult to deal with her. However, if the two Grand Elders know about it, how can we survive?" Director Ren said worriedly. Chapter 6006 Collusion. Director Zhao curled his lips and said, "Humph, that troublemaker must have fooled the two grand elders with her flowery words. Her aptitude is so bad that the two grand elders will soon regret taking her as a disciple. We can make a move then. What you said makes sense. You can't fool them forever. I don't believe that the two grand elders are really willing to take a trash as a disciple. There are so many outstanding students in the academy. When the time comes, we can recommend them to the two grand elders," Director's son of the Array Division echoed. "When she loses her favor, it will be as easy as flipping our hands to deal with her. When the time comes, we will deal with her together with the person surnamed Gu." Director Ren gnashed his teeth and said. The more they thought about it, the more they felt that Enchanting did not have many days to jump around. They suddenly felt much better. Naturally, they wouldn't really repair the house. They called over a few odd job workers to help and quickly renovated the primal region. Just as they were about to leave, Director Zhao said sternly with a swollen face, "Brothers, let's make it clear first. We are all on the same side. We must advance and retreat together. If anyone has any evil intentions, don't blame us for turning against you." Everyone immediately made a solemn vow. They were all in the same boat, so of course, they had to face the outside world together. Director's son of the Array Division staggered back to his own courtyard. On the way, he saw that the students were somewhat evasive. His old face almost turned purple. He had never been so embarrassed before. It was all because of that troublemaker Enchanting. He went back to the courtyard to wash up. After all, he had been stained with a lot of dog blood. Even though he had used the cleaning technique, he still felt very uncomfortable. Just after he finished bathing, a guard came over and reported, "Director's son, Enchanting from the primeval branch wants to see you." "What did you say?" Director's son felt that he must have heard wrongly. That troublemaker still dared to come in front of him? Wasn't she afraid that he would slap her to death? "Enchanting is outside and said that she wants to see you," the guard repeated. "No." Director's son gritted his teeth and said. Although he wanted to slap that troublemaker to death, she was currently in the limelight and did not need to be in trouble. At this moment, he heard someone's smiling voice, "Marshal nephew's son, who made you suffer? Why are you so angry?" As he spoke, Director's son saw a little girl push the door open and walk in. It was Enchanting, the troublemaker. "Enchanting, you actually barged in without permission. How dare you? Get out." Director Su. "Marshal nephew's son, what you said is wrong. As Marshal uncle, I came to visit you. Shouldn't you be grateful? Why don't you welcome me? I came under the orders of my two masters. Are you trying to rebel?" Hei Shinjo said with her hands behind her back. "What orders?" "The courtyard gate and the house have been repaired. Why are you still looking for me?" Director's son asked in a bad mood. Yunchujo sighed. "Marshal nephew's son, you really disappoint me. I originally thought that you were the smartest and most promising among the 6 postmasters. That's why I came to look for you. I didn't expect that you wouldn't understand my painstaking efforts. Since that's the case, then I'll go and meet with Chancellor Zhou and the others." As Yunchujo said this, she turned around and was about to leave. Director's son was a little stunned and hurriedly said, "Wait, speak clearly. Why are you looking for me?" Yunchujo glanced at the guard who had made the report. Director's son hurriedly waved his hand to make the guard leave. Chapter 6007 was as honest as me, can you say it now? Director's son said in a bad mood. Yunchujo glanced at him and then sat on the main seat of the study. She pointed at the chair with its hands hanging down. "Sit down." Director's son's nose almost went crooked from anger. This was his study, okay? This troublemaker was really not a stranger. Director's son endured it and sat on the chair. "What exactly are you trying to say? Marshal nephew's son, isn't your hospitality a little too poor? I worked so hard to come here and talk to you about important matters, and you don't even give me a cup of tea? Yun Shujo looked at the desk and said unhappily. Director Sun's hand clenched into a fist and then loosened. He tried to persuade himself that if he couldn't bear it, he would mess up the big plan. If he really beat up this troublemaker, he probably wouldn't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Therefore, he gritted his teeth and ordered his subordinates to bring tea and pastries. Yun Shujo sipped 2 cups of tea and ate a piece of pastries. When Director Sun's patience was about to run out, she slammed the table and said sternly, "Marshal Nephew Sun, do you think that I don't know that you guys are colluding to harm me?" Director Sun was shocked, but he was shrewd after all. He immediately sneered and said, "Where did you say that from? Even if you want to frame me, you have to have evidence." "Evidence? Of course I have evidence. Otherwise, how would I know your plan? Do you think the 6 of you are on the same page? You silly child, you have been sold and you are still helping others count the money." Yun Shujo shook her head and sighed. Director Sun, who was called a silly child, had goosebumps all over his body. However, he could not care about these things now. He asked suspiciously, "What do you mean by this?" "I'll tell you the truth. Someone has already told me what you've just schemed," Yun Shujo said lightly. Director Sun snorted coldly, "Schemed? What are we scheming? You're just spouting nonsense. Do you think I'm bluffing you? Didn't you guys just discuss how to deal with me after my 2 masters find out that I'm trash? Someone had already tipped me off." Yun Shujo curled the corners of her lips and said. Director Sun's pupils immediately constricted, but he still denied it. "This is purely a false accusation. It's not true at all." Yun Shujo narrowed her eyes and sighed, "Marshal Nephew Sun, you are indeed as honest as I am. You always think of people as too kind." Director Sun's mouth twitched. "Shameless. You're not even close to being honest, okay? Sigh, I have the best impression of your array division. We don't have any conflicts, so I want to give you some advice. Since you are so stubborn, just treat it as if I came here for nothing." Yun Shujo stood up and was about to leave. Director Sun would not let her go, so he quickly said, "Wait. What do you want to say?" Yun Shujo shook her head. "Rottenwood can't be carved. It's useless for me to tell you. I might as well go and talk to someone else. I think Junior Zhou from the Beast Master faculty is not bad." Director Sun was not in a hurry. He gritted his teeth and said, "Senior Uncle Yen, I have a few good-tasting spirit fruits here. Why don't you try them?" Yun Shujo saw the plate of spirit fruits that Director Sun took out and shamelessly put it into her storage ring. She did not even let the plate go. "Well, since you're so filial, I'll remind you that the Academy wants to promote one of the 6 of you to Deputy Director." Chapter 6008 was actually very kind. "What did you say?" Director Sun was so shocked that his voice changed. "Marshal Nephew Sun, why are you so excited? Isn't it just to promote a deputy headmaster? Is it necessary?" Yun Shujo said lightly. Director Sun realized that he had lost his composure. He tried hard to suppress the excitement in his heart and said, "Marshal Uncle Yen, is what you said true? Do you really want to promote a deputy headmaster?" Although every branch had a chancellor and a vice-chancellor, the academy only had one president and had never appointed a vice-president. If he was promoted to vice-president, he would be the second in command of the academy. He might even be the successor of the next president. Of course, Director Sun was very excited. Yun Shujo nodded. "Of course it's true. My 2 masters are not very satisfied with President Gus' performance. They feel that it is necessary to train another vice president to replace President Gu as soon as possible." Upon hearing this, Director Sun was so excited that his hands were trembling. He thought about what Yun Shujo had said before and immediately said with some excitement, "Marshal Uncle Yen, you specially came to look for me. Could it be that you want to help me?" Yun Shujo sighed. "Of course. Otherwise, why would I come to look for you? Sigh, it's a pity that you don't understand my painstaking efforts. You even spoke coldly to me. It really makes my heart chill. Forget it. I see that you don't trust me much either. I'd better go visit other Marshall nephews. Director's son immediately became anxious. If such a good opportunity were to slip away just like that, wouldn't he regret it for the rest of his life? Marshall Uncle Yen, I was blinded by lard just now. It was all nonsense. Please don't take it to heart. Please take a seat quickly. It's time for dinner. I'll get someone to prepare dinner. There's no need for dinner. I still have to go back and have dinner with my two masters. Marshall nephew's son, the food and drinks are all empty. You have to show me your sincerity. Yun Shujio said as if she was implying something. Director's son was also a smart person. He immediately understood Yun Shujio's meaning. Since someone had already snitched on him, he didn't need to worry about him anymore. Thus, he told her everything about the conspiracy. Of course, he hid his words. Yun Shujio nodded. That's right. You are still a little sincere. It seems that I didn't misjudge him. Oh right, I have to remind you. Don't get involved with Director Zhao in the future. Didn't you see that he was beaten the most miserably? He is the one that my two masters despise the most. Director's son nodded repeatedly. Marshall Uncle Yen, don't worry. Yun Shujio took out a porcelain bottle and handed it to Director Sunday. This is the marrow cleansing and body strengthening pill that I obtained with great difficulty from my master. I will reward it to you. Director's son was so touched that he almost cried. This troublemaker was not that annoying. He was actually very kind. Marshall Uncle Yen, if you need anything from me in the future, just let me know. I will definitely not refuse. Yun Shujio nodded. I reckon that the news of the promotion of the vice principal will spread very quickly. However, don't worry, I have high hopes for you. I will definitely put in a good word for you. Then thank you, Marshall Uncle Yen. I will visit Marshall Uncle Yen another day. These spirit stones are a small token of my appreciation. I hope that Marshall Uncle Yen won't mind. Director's son said as he transferred a large amount of spirit stones to Yun Shujio. The most favored person in front of the two grand elders was this Yen Qingcheng. If he wanted to stand out, he had to put in more effort on her. Chapter 6009. I have an idea. After leaving the courtyard of Director's son, Hei Shinjo came to see President Gu with her hands behind her back. Marshal nephew Gu, are you reading? This guy said with his hands behind his back as soon as he entered the study room. President Gu's face stiffened. Before he could say anything, Yun Shujio continued, look at my mouth, it's bald. You are the president of the academy, how can I call you Marshal nephew? It's better to call you president in the future. President Gu said a few words of courtesy perfunctorily. It wasn't easy for him to get from little Gu to President Gu. He didn't want to be called Marshal nephew Gu by this little girl again. Yen, President Gu really couldn't call him Marshal Uncle Yen, so he simply didn't address him as Marshal Uncle Yen. He directly said, you came to look for me for something? President, to tell you the truth, after I left you, I went to the Array Division's director Sunday. I could hear from his words that they hated you to the core. I'm still alright. After all, with two masters protecting you, I'm afraid your future will be difficult. Yun Shujio said earnestly. There's nothing I can do about it. If I ask them to hand over a part of their power, they will naturally be dissatisfied with me. President Gu believed her words without a doubt. He had also thought of this point. Yun Shujio lowered her voice. President, I have to remind you out of kindness. The six of them are colluding with each other and have quite a number of forces under them. You should be more careful in the future. Don't think that my master dislikes them now. However, as time goes by, this matter will be over. If they give you a hard time in front of my two masters, you might have to return the power that you don't have yet. You might not be able to hold on to your position as president anymore. Hearing that, President Gu immediately became anxious. Yen Qingcheng's worry was not without reason. In the end, Director Zhao and the other three did not make any big mistakes. In addition, they were also quite capable. With the 6 of them ganging up on him, he was really at a disadvantage. Yun Shujiu blinked her eyes. President, I have an idea. Do you want to tell me about it? President Gu knew that she had many ideas, so he said, tell me about it. President, why don't we spread the news and say that we want to promote a vice president? Aren't the 6 of them targeting you just to compete for power and benefits? But with a big pie like the vice president, they will turn against each other. They won't have the energy to deal with you. They might even take the initiative to please you. At that time, won't the initiative be in your hands? President Gus' eyes lit up. This was a good eye. Once the news was released, the 6 people would definitely have a feud. At that time, if he tried to sow discord, the alliance of these 6 people would collapse. However, President Gu still had some misgivings. This idea isn't bad. However, do we really have to promote a vice president? President Gu, isn't it still up to you whether we should promote him or not? Can't we just find an excuse to fool him then? President Gu nodded repeatedly. It had to be said that this troublemaker had many wicked ideas. No wonder he took in those 2 as his masters. It seemed to be the other way around. However, no matter what, this idea was not a bad one. The 2 of them chatted about the details of this matter. Only then did Yun Shujiu swagger out of President Gus' courtyard and return to the prehistoric branch. Qingqing, you're back? Where did you go? Ding Wenru asked curiously. I went to the array formation branch to take a look at Marshal Nephew's sundae. Here, eat the fruit. He Xinjiu threw a spirit fruit to Ding Wenru. Chapter 6010 was quite suitable for me. Ding Wenru looked at the spirit fruit in her hand and asked in surprise, Yo, this 1,000-petal fruit is very precious. Where did you get it? Marshal Nephew's son gave it to me. I have to say, these Marshal nephews are very filial. Yun Shujiu said with a smile. The corner of Ding Wenru's eyes twitched. Filial? Those few chancellors should want to strangle you to death. Seeing Ding Wenru's dumbfounded face, Yun Shujiu told her everything. Ding Wenru immediately widened her eyes. I've been with you all day today. Why didn't I know about the promotion of the vice principal? It's very simple, because I did it first before reporting it. After I fooled Marshal Nephew's son, I went to find little Gu Zi to settle the matter, Yun Shujiu said with a smile. Ding Wenru, Qingqing, although Director's son has been fooled by you now, if he reacts in a few days, won't he hate you to death? Yun Shujiu narrowed her eyes. Otherwise, do you think that they don't hate me? Don't worry, didn't I ask him to confess the crimes of the others? I have already recorded it with the recording stone. If he doesn't listen, I will use this to threaten him. Besides, it's too late for them to fight each other. How would they have the time to doubt my words? Then how will this matter end? Are we really going to promote a vice-chancellor to the position of vice-chancellor? Yun Shujiu revealed a sinister smile. Who exactly is the vice-chancellor in the end? Isn't it just a word from my 2 masters? I think I'm quite suitable. Ding Wenru, she felt that her brain and courage were not enough. You are just a new student, and you actually want to be the vice president? Isn't that a little whimsical? Ding Wenru pondered for a long time before she said tentatively, by doing this, not only do you want to drive a wedge between the 6 chancellors, you also want to step on them and rise to the top. You also want to pin down President Gu, right? Yun Shujiu nodded her head in approval. Sister Ding, your brain is becoming more and more flexible. You are right. It is better to rely on yourself than anyone else. Although the 2 masters doted on me, it is not reliable. Therefore, I have to make myself more valuable. If I want to display my skills, I have to have power. If I don't play tricks, no matter how open-minded President Gu is, he will not give me the power in his hands. Ding Wenru looked worried. Qingqing, what do you want to do with such a scheme? I just want to live a better and more comfortable life, Yun Shujiu said lightly. This was also an idea that came to her at the last minute. The deputy dean of the 10 Directions Academy was much more useful than a favored student. In this way, not only did she not have to worry about the divine devil hall finding fault with her, but she could also openly visit the 10,000 Buddha's sacred palace, to cause trouble. Then are you going to meet the other chancellors later? Ding Wenru asked. If I take the initiative to go, it will definitely arouse suspicion. I have to take the initiative to wait for them to come. Don't worry. Soon, the other people will know that I went to Director Sun's place. They will definitely be suspicious. I just need to wait and see. When I think of what will happen, my heart will surge. Ding Wenru looked at He Xinzhou, who had a sinister smile on her face, and lit a candle for the 6 presidents and President Gu. By the way, how did you know what Director Sun and the others are planning? Yun Chuzhou pointed at her own head. I guessed it. They have suffered such a huge loss. They must be discussing how to take revenge on me. I was also bluffing him. Who knew that he was so stupid that he directly exposed himself? Ding Wenru, it's not that he's stupid, it's that you're a pervert. It finally made him feel proud. However, President Gus' attitude towards everyone was about the same. No one had received any useful information. President Zhou of the Spirit Energy faculty pondered over it and felt that it was still necessary to pay a visit to Yan Qingcheng. After all, she was now the beloved disciple of the 2 Grand Elders. If she could put in a few good words for them, their chances of winning would be much greater. As for the alliance that he had formed with Director Zhao and the others, they could only stand aside in the face of benefits. Oh, Marshal Nephew Zhou, why are you here? Did you come to visit me with a gift? Yun Chuzhou put her hands behind her back, looking like a wolf with a big tail. What could Director Zhou say? He could only take out a spiritual weapon painfully. Before he could say anything, it was snatched away by He Xinzhou. You are too polite. You came so easily. Why did you give me anything? Sigh, if I didn't accept it, you would have lost face. For your face, I reluctantly accepted it. Chapter 60:12. The ostracized Director Zhao. Director Zhou's face stiffened, but when he thought of his original intention of coming, he could only endure the pain and say, this is what I should do. It's good that Marshal Uncle Yen doesn't mind. Of course not. It's just that my money is a little tight recently, and I don't even have the money to buy buns, He Xinzhou said with a sigh. Director Zhou was so angry that he was twitching. Your money is tight. Are you shameless? Did you feed all the spiritual stones that you extorted to the dogs? If He Xinzhou knew what he was thinking, she would definitely tell him that she didn't feed the dogs, but fed the pigs. Chancellor Zhou had no choice but to give He Xinzhou a lot of spiritual stones. He Xinzhou immediately smiled like a flower. Marshal Nephew Zhou, I've always thought highly of you. As expected, I didn't misjudge you. Come, sit, have some tea. The two chatted for a while before Chancellor Zhou got to the main topic. Marshal Uncle Yen, I heard that the Academy is promoting a vice dean. I will ask Marshal Uncle Yen to put in a good word for me. After the matter is done, I will definitely repay you heavily. Marshal Nephew Zhou, you are indeed smart. You have found the right person to look for me. To be honest, although Marshal Nephew Gu has some say in this matter, the ones who make the decisions are my 2 masters. My 2 masters love me the most, so in the end, it's up to me to decide who will be the vice principal. Yun Chuzhou said smugly. Marshal Uncle Yen is right. Then, I'll leave this matter to you. In the future, if you need anything, just say the word. Chancellor Zhou said in a fawning manner. Marshal Nephew Zhou, put aside the things you don't say. I heard that you guys have already discussed how to deal with me. Is there such a thing? Chancellor Zhou thought to himself, if a dead fellow Daoist doesn't die, this poor Daoist will take the opportunity to get rid of those few competitors. Thus, he added fuel to the fire and recounted the conspiracy that day. Yun Chuzhou immediately slapped the table. This is really outrageous. From what you said, the culprit is Director Zhao. No wonder the two masters dislike him the most. He is indeed a black-hearted person. Let me give you a piece of advice. In order not to anger the two masters, you should pay less attention to Director Zhao in the future. Director Zhou repeatedly agreed. In his heart, he was determined to draw a clear line with Director Zhao so that he would not be implicated. Seeing that he was almost done, Director Zhou took his leave. Yun Shuzhou took out a small porcelain bottle and handed it to him. This is the marrow cleansing and body strengthening pill that I obtained with great difficulty from my master. I will give it to you as a reward. Director Zhou was immediately overwhelmed by the favor. He did not expect to see money again. This troublemaker was not so hateful after all. Soon, Director Ren and the others also came to visit. The process was exactly the same. They voluntarily gave Yun Shuzhou a generous gift and then left gratefully. Only Director Zhao did not come. Qingsheng, I heard that Director Zhao has been having a hard time recently. Not only did President Gu give him a hard time, but the other chancellors also opposed him. He really deserves it. Ding Wenru said gloatingly. Yun Shuzhou was not surprised at all. This was all planned by her. Director Zhao's life was indeed a little hard. He really did not understand. They had originally agreed to form an alliance, but why did they exclude him in the blink of an eye? Although everyone was at odds with each other for the position of vice director, the other few were at least doing well on the surface. Why did they all have to target him? He also wanted to look for Yan Qingsheng, but he felt that he could not afford to lose face. Moreover, he felt that Yan Qingsheng would not help him at all. After all, he had offended her too harshly. He did not expect that Yan Qingsheng would take the initiative to visit him. Chapter 60 13 Love is a deep responsibility. Director Zhao heard from the guards that Yan Qingsheng had come. The first thought that flashed through his mind was that she had come to add insult to injury and see him become a laughingstock. He snapped, "I'm not going to see you." "Yo, Marshal Nephew Zhao, it's been a few days since we last met. Your temper has grown. Even I, an elder, have to be refused entry. Are you trying to rebel?" Director Zhao was livid when he saw He Xinjiu enter uninvited. If it were not for the two grand elders, he would have strangled her to death. "What are you doing here? You are not welcome here. See you out," Director Zhao said in a bad mood. "Marshal Nephew Zhao, you have really disappointed me. I wanted to talk to you about the deputy headmaster. Since you are so tactless, I will take my leave." He Xinjiu turned around and was about to leave when Director Zhao hurriedly said, "Wait." He quickly waved his hand to dismiss the guards, and then asked tentatively, "What did you say just now? About the vice director? Could it be that the candidate has been chosen?" Yun Shuzhou glanced at him, shook her head and sighed, making Director Zhao's heart flutter. "Marshal Nephew Zhao, I heard that you haven't been having a good time recently." Director Zhao's face immediately showed some embarrassment. "It's just a so-so. It's still passable. Let's not talk about this. Has the vice director's selection been decided?" Yun Shuzhou let out a long sigh. "Marshal Nephew Zhao, do you know that there's a saying? Love is deep and responsibility is deep. The reason why the two grand elders beat you the most was because they had high hopes for you. To be honest with you, this vice director was tailor-made for you, but your performance has really disappointed the two of them." Director Zhao was immediately dumbfounded. What the hell? The two grand elders' favorite candidate was him? Beating him up because love is deep and responsibility? After a long while, Director Zhao asked with doubt, Is what you said true?" "Of course it's true. Otherwise, why do you think those people isolated you?" "It's because they think you're the biggest threat." Yun Shijia's face was full of resentment. When Director Zhao heard that, he was immediately enlightened. No wonder President Gu and Director Ren isolated him. It turned out that they were jealous. Director Zhao only felt that his pent-up anger had been swept away. Even Yun Chuzhou became a lot more pleasing to the eye. In fact, this troublemaker was not so annoying. Martial nephew Zhao, it's not that I want to criticize you, but even if they are jealous of you, you should think of a way to build a good relationship with them. Otherwise, no matter how much my two masters think of you, you can't provoke the public, right? Yun Chuzhou said earnestly. Director Zhao said somewhat helplessly, it's not that I don't want to build a good relationship with them, it's mainly that they ostracize me. What can I do? Yun Chuzhou sighed, this is indeed a bit difficult. Generally speaking, outstanding people are lonely. For example, you and I are both like this. Director Zhao, Yun Chuzhou thought for a while and said, the relationship between those martial nephews and me has been getting better recently. How about this? I'll be the host and treat you to a meal. When the time comes, I'll help you to make peace. Maybe it will improve. Director Zhao said suspiciously, let's not beat around the bush. I have been against you many times before. Why do you want to help me? Yun Chuzhou sighed and said with a compassionate look, my two masters often taught me to put the academy's interests first. Although we have some small conflicts, it is not a big grudge. I have long put it aside. In the end, it is because you are too outstanding. A tree stands out in the forest, and the wind will destroy it. What is wrong with you? Chapter 60:14 Gratitude goes without saying. Director Zhao was so touched that he almost cried. He had been receiving cold words these few days. He did not expect that the first person who cared about him would be Yan Qingsheng, the troublemaker. It seemed that he had misunderstood her in the past. In fact, this troublemaker was actually good in nature. Martial Uncle Yan, I'll have to trouble you then. Don't worry, if I become the vice principal, I will definitely not forget your kindness in helping me. Yun Chuzhou nodded and then frowned, other things are fine. The main thing is that I'm a little short of money recently, so the standard of this seat might be a little low. You won't mind, right? Director Zhao quickly said, Martial Uncle Yan, you're making peace for me. How can I let you spend money? Take these spirit stones first. If it's not enough, I'll make up for it. Another sum of spirit stones came in, and the smile on He Xingjia's face immediately became more sincere. Martial nephew Zhao, don't worry. Leave everything to me. I will go back and prepare. Set a date and I will get someone to send you an invitation. Under Director Zhao's grateful gaze, Yun Chuzhou walked out of his courtyard. Her heart was simply filled with joy. The plan was progressing very smoothly. As long as the fire was simmered down slowly, the deputy director would be hers in the end. She would find another opportunity to stroll around the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, save her cheap parents, and then have sex with the gigolo. When this fellow thought of this, she suddenly thought of a problem. Damn it, as long as Goei Batsao was around, it was impossible for her to have sex with the gigolo. This damned Goei Batsao. Recently, a certain grass that had rarely been scolded shook its leaves. Was she blaming it? A little girl who wanted to have sex all day long, how shameless. When Yun Chuzhou returned to the primeval institution, Chu Feng was waiting for her with his legs crossed. Dear disciple, you're finally back. Have you finished reading the sheepskin scroll I gave you 2 days ago? Have you learned all the talismans on it? Yun Chuzhou nodded. Master, I have learned it, but my cultivation is not enough, so I can't carve it out. Chu Feng frowned and said, I forgot if you didn't mention it. You said that you're quite smart. Why is your spiritual power so low? Have you been slacking off and not cultivating properly? He Xingjiu smiled bitterly in her heart. It was not that she was slacking off. No matter how hard she worked, it would be useless if the heavenly lightning did not strike her. However, it reminded her that she should go to Thunder Valley to collect rent when she had time. Chu Feng saw that Yun Chuzhou was a little depressed, so he quickly said, My good disciple, you don't have to worry too much. It's okay if your cultivation is low. It'll help you refine some good pills to cleanse your marrow. I guarantee that your cultivation speed will be faster. Yun Shuzhou was too embarrassed to discourage him. She nodded and asked, "Where are Sister Ding and Master Zhuang?" "Although that girl can't be compared to you, her comprehension in refining artifacts is pretty good." Zhuang Mu found a place to teach her how to refine artifacts, Chu Feng said. As the two of them were talking, Zhuang Mu and Ding Wenru came back. Zhuang Mu seemed to be in a good mood. He thought that this disciple of his was a good-for-nothing. He did not expect that she was a good seedling for refining weapons. Not only did she have a good comprehension ability, but she also had great strength and was willing to endure hardships. This was a pleasant surprise. Ding Wenru's expression was also a little more relaxed than usual. She knew what she was capable of. She had borrowed the light of Qingsheng to become the master of the two grand elders. Naturally, she had to work extra hard to not embarrass Qingsheng. There was no need to thank her for her great kindness. If there was a chance in the future, she would definitely repay Qingsheng properly. After dinner, Zhuang Mu said seriously, "The two of us have something to do and will be away for a period of time. The two of you should cultivate well. If you have something to do, go look for little Gu Zi." Chapter 60:15 He Xinzhou held a banquet. "Master, when will you come back? I can't bear to let you go," Yun Shuzhou said with tears in her eyes. This fellow was overjoyed in her heart. Once the two of them left, wouldn't she be the one with the highest seniority in the 10 Directions Academy? It was so wonderful. At most 2 months, at least 1 month. Zhuang Mu and Chu Feng did not know what she was thinking. Seeing how reluctant she was to part with him, they felt comforted and thought that this disciple was not taken in for nothing. The two reminded her for a while more before leaving. Ding Wenru looked at He Xinzhou, who was smiling like a flower. She suddenly had a feeling that the following days would definitely be very lively. 2 days later, President Gu and the 6 chancellors received He Xinjia's invitation. The main idea was to celebrate her success in becoming her master by hosting a banquet. President Gu felt that he and Yan Qingsheng were on the same side, so he naturally agreed readily. The 5 chancellors also agreed in order to curry favor with her. Director Zhao even agreed readily. This was a banquet that Yan Qingsheng had specially arranged for him. How could he not go? Thus, the next day, President Gu and the other 3 arrived at the primeval subdivision on time. The banquet was set in the courtyard of the primeval subdivision. The big night pearls on the ground were so dazzling that they blinded the eyes of the 7 people. This troublemaker had been crying poor all this time. They had never thought that there would be such a good thing. The table was already filled with dishes. They looked delicious and looked very sincere. "Martial nephews, I didn't expect you to be so gracious. I'm so touched. Sister Ding, quickly take the gifts from all of you. Seriously, just come, what else do you need? Although it's to celebrate the success of Sister Ding and I as master, there's no need to give such an expensive gift." President Gu, the 6 chancellors, who said anything about giving gifts? They actually had to accept gifts. However, seeing Ding Wenru coming over to take the gifts with a big smile, they had no choice but to give the gifts while gnashing their teeth. Come, take a seat. Don't stand on ceremony." He Xinzhou smiled brilliantly. De Hua's food expenses had been paid again. President Gu and the others were not in such a good mood. They counted on their fingers and realized that they had been cheated by this troublemaker several times recently. How shameless. Yun Shuzhou pointed at the full moon that had just risen above her head. Today is a good day. The secular world calls it the Mid-Autumn Festival. It's a day for family reunion. Although we haven't known each other for a long time, our feelings are no. From now on, we will be a harmonious and beautiful family. Come, I'll drink tea instead of wine. Cheers first. President Gu and the others didn't want to brush off her good intentions. They picked up their wine glasses and downed them in one gulp. Hei Shinjo poured herself another cup of tea and said, although we may have had some grudges in the past, it's just a trivial matter for a family to not speak of two families. Don't mention it again in the future. Come, let me propose another cup. President Gu and the others had no choice but to drink another cup. In the blink of an eye, Hei Shinjo persuaded them to drink a few cups. After a few cups of wine, everyone felt much more relaxed and the atmosphere at the banquet became much warmer. However, Director Sun and the others still ignored Director Zhao. Director Zhao could not help but look at Yun Shujo for help. Yun Shujo nodded her head indiscernibly and said with a smile, in fact, apart from celebrating Sister Ding Me as master, there is one more thing today. Marshal Nephew Zhao wants to explain the previous misunderstanding to everyone. He knows that he was wrong. He shouldn't have caused trouble for no reason. Come, Junior Marshal Nephew Zhao, punish yourself with 3 cups. I believe that everyone will not hold it against you. Chapter 60-16 Happiness. Although Director Zhao felt that this was a little different from what he had expected, he could only put on a red face and punish himself with 3 glasses of wine. Director Sun and the others were a little nervous. How could this troublemaker speak up for Director Zhao? Could it be that Director Zhao had given her benefits? However, no one dared to offend Hei Shinjo now, so they all laughed and drank a glass of wine, as if they were giving Yun Shujo face. Yun Shujo said a few more words of peace and then changed the topic. I know that everyone has some thoughts about the vice headmaster's matter recently. This is also a good thing. This shows that you are motivated and want to contribute more to the academy. Director Zhao and the others were exposed, and they could not help but feel a little embarrassed. It's good to have thoughts, but just thinking about it is not enough. You have to show results so that my 2 masters and the headmaster can know who is the most suitable candidate. It's not just you. As long as people in the academy can contribute to the academy, have ideas, and have courage, they can all become vice presidents. So, you have to put your thoughts in the right place in the future. Don't let down the high hopes of my 2 masters. Dean, don't you think I'm right? Although President Gu felt that there was something wrong with these words, he was a little drunk now. He didn't think about it carefully and nodded, that makes sense. In this matter, I will treat everyone equally. Whoever performs well will be the vice president. Director Zhao and the others did not realize that something was wrong. They all swore to express their loyalty to the academy. Yun Shujo quietly put away the recording stone in her sleeve. The vice president was already waving at her. In a few days, she would think of a way to buy the hearts of the people and dig a few more holes. Then, the vice president would naturally succeed. Just as this fellow was thinking happily, President Gu frowned and looked up at the sky. Director Zhao and the others also looked up. They saw that the full moon had already been covered by a large piece of dark cloud. Almost in an instant, a huge pressure enveloped them. It was difficult for them to breathe. What was going on? Everyone's drunkenness immediately dissipated a little. Could it be that a heavenly lightning was about to descend? Before the crowd had time to think further, with a loud rumble, a thick purple heavenly lightning descended from the sky and struck straight at them. Just as the crowd was in a daze, Yun Shujo shouted, "Get out of the way. Marshal Uncle, I'm here to save you." As she shouted, President Gu and the others saw a figure tap the ground with the tips of his feet and charge straight towards the heavenly lightning. The thick heavenly lightning struck the figure and Hei Shinjo fell to the ground with a thud. She immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. "Don't worry about me. Run." President Gu and the others were shocked. Even though the heavenly lightning wouldn't do anything to them if they were prepared, they were still touched by Yan Qingcheng's behavior. At this moment, another heavenly lightning struck. Yun Shujo immediately jumped up like a rabbit and faced the heavenly lightning again. After being struck by the lightning, this guy spat out a mouthful of blood again and shouted at the top of his voice, "What are you still standing there for? Run. The 10 Directions Academy can't live without you. Sacrificing one of me will bring happiness to millions of families. I'm the elder and I'll take care of it." President Gu and the others were about to say something when another bolt of lightning struck down. He Xinjiu pushed away Director Zhao, who was closest to her, and said, "Junior nephew Zhao, I'm here to save you." Chapter 60:17 was blind after being pushed away. Director Zhao watched Yun Chuzhou being struck by lightning again. The lightning was so solid that not a single bit of it was wasted. Director Zhao was shocked. There was only one thought in his mind. Why did she save me? Why? He Xinjiu spat out a mouthful of blood and jumped to President Gu's side. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and take them away. Before President Gu could say anything, Yun Chuzhou pushed him away. Be careful. President Gu, who was pushed to the side, was shocked to see He Xinjiu being struck by the heavenly lightning again. Before he could recover, he saw Yun Chuzhou heroically push away Director Sun and receive a heavenly lightning bolt for him. Touched, Director Sun shouted in desperation, "Uncle Master Yen, let's retreat together." That's right, Marshal Uncle Yen. The heavenly lightning might not chase after us. Let's retreat together. The others also said quickly. He Xinjiu thought that whether the heavenly lightning would chase after them depended on whether she followed them or not. However, in order to win the hearts of the people and not to expose himself, this guy gritted his teeth and said, "All right, let's retreat together. Run." Therefore, President Gu and the others rushed out of the primeval subdivision. Soon, they tragically found that there was a string of purple heavenly lightning behind them. It seemed that they would not stop until they were struck to death. They were both frightened and confused. They had not done anything wrong. Why did the lightning bolts want to kill them? They were running in the direction of the square. They were afraid that they might accidentally hurt the other students. After all, the square was relatively empty. He Xinjiu was thinking about how to get rid of these unlucky fellows. If they continued to follow her, she would not be able to enjoy the hard-earned lightning bolts. When they were about to reach the square, He Xinjiu shouted, "This square is our ancestors' property. We can't destroy it like this. Let's run to the dock and lure the heavenly lightning into the lake." President Gu and the others were stunned by the heavenly lightning's pressure. In addition to the great fear, their minds were already somewhat stiff. Hearing Yun Chuzhiu's words, they subconsciously followed her instructions. Therefore, the few of them rushed out of the main gate of the upper house with a string of heavenly lightning and headed straight for the dock by the lake. Wu Yun in the sky was twitching with anger. He thought, are these few old men crazy? It didn't want to strike them, so why did it have to run with that wretched girl? After venting its anger, a few heavenly lightning bolts from the Wu Yun actually struck press. Naturally, He Xinjiu would not let go of such a good opportunity. She bravely took the few bolts of lightning for them. In order to make the effect more realistic, the guy was in a terrible state. His hair was burnt to ashes, and his clothes were covered in blood and dust. He was no longer human. However, his eyes were shockingly bright. "I don't deserve to die. The academy cannot live without you. I'm an elder. I'll do it. Get out of the way. Uncle Master will save you." At first, President Gu and the others were skeptical and puzzled. Later, they were only filled with gratitude and self-blame. They had been blind to think that Yan Qingsheng was a troublemaker. What a kind and good girl she was. Ding Wenru silently watched He Xinjiu's performance. She only had one word in her heart, admiration. The group ran all the way to the lakeside. He Xinjiu said righteously, "I'll think of a way to lure the heavenly lightning into the lake. Take care of yourselves. Sister Ding, please honor Master for me in the future. See you in the next life." Chapter 60:18 Boiling prawns. Before President Gu and the others could react to what Yun Chuzhiu meant, they saw her jump into the lake with a thump, revealing her small head a few feet away. "You bastard Yun, what ability do you have to bully a few old men? If you have the ability, come and chop me. Come and chop me. Are you cowardly? You coward. Come, if I'm afraid of death, I'll take your surname. Wu Yun was so angry that he was about to burst. This wretched girl was really hateful. He didn't believe that he wouldn't be able to chop her to death today. Thus, Wu Yun aimed at the place where Yunchujia's head emerged and struck down several bolts of lightning. Very soon, a large part of the lake water was dyed red. A thought suddenly flashed through President Gu and the others' minds. It was over. Uncle Master Yen was dead for sure. President Gu immediately rushed into the lake to save Yunchujio. Ding Wenru was afraid that he would ruin Yunchujia's plans, so she hugged President Gu. President, you can't go. If you go, won't Qingcheng's sacrifice be in vain? You can't let her down. Otherwise, Qingcheng will die in peace underground. Besides, Qingcheng is the darling of Tian Dao. She has always been very lucky and her life may not be in danger. Don't be rash. She had just persuaded President Gu to stop when Director Sun and the others were about to rush into the lake again. Ding Wenru was so busy that her forehead was covered in sweat. She finally persuaded them to stop. She said until her mouth and tongue were dry. In the end, she pointed at Wu Yun who was still hacking at the surface of the lake and said, "Look, the heavenly lightning hasn't stopped yet. This means that Qingcheng shouldn't be dead yet. The heavens will grant her good fortune. She will definitely be fine." President Gu and the others calmed down and felt that what she said made sense. If Yan Qingcheng had been hacked to death, this Wu Yun would have come and continued to hack at them or drifted away. He shouldn't have continued to hack at the surface of the lake. Ding Wenru was right. Yan Qingcheng had always been lucky. Perhaps she had another stroke of good fortune. Therefore, the few of them stared at the lake nervously, hoping for a miracle to happen. Hei Xinjiu, who was in the lake, activated the water repellent bead. She happily lay in the water to absorb the heavenly lightning, humming comfortably. This fellow discovered that being struck in the water was much better than being struck on the ground. The surface of the water could reduce a portion of the power of the lightning, and it would not be so dirty. It was simply a holy land struck by lightning. Moreover, some of the unlucky fish and prawns were directly cooked, and there was even food to eat. Although this fellow wished that he could roar a few times to anger Wu Yun, he was afraid that he would be exposed, so he could only secretly laugh. Wu Yun in the sky was trembling with anger, because when he saw the stinky girl below the surface of the water, not only was she completely fine, she was even eating the boiled prawns. It was indeed intolerable for Wu Yun. This damn stinky girl had really gone too far with Yun. She had to be struck to death today. However, even though it had almost used up all the power of lightning, it was still unable to strike Hei Xinjiu to death. On the contrary, it had struck many unlucky fish and shrimp to death. After Hei Xinjiu had eaten her fill, it had all benefited to Hua. Wu Yun had no way of dealing with Yunchujiu. He simply vented his anger on President Gu and the others, and used the remaining power of lightning to strike them. Although President Gu and the others were covered in dust and dirt, it wasn't a big deal, but Ding Wenru was unlucky. Her cultivation was much lower than President Gu and the others. Although she tried her best to dodge, she was still struck by the heavenly lightning and fainted. Fortunately, President Gu and the others came in time to protect her, or else she would have been burned to ashes. After Wu Yun vented his anger, he flew away in a fluster. "Damned girl, this matter isn't over. Well, see." Chapter 6019 was saving people even in their dreams. President Gu and the others first saved Ding Wenru, then looked at the surface of the lake. At this time, it was already dawn, and the thunder lasted for a whole night. Although they still had a trace of hope in their hearts, they felt that Yan Qingcheng was most likely dead. On the surface of the lake, there was only a gentle breeze that stirred up the sparkling waves. There was no movement at all. Director Zhao's eyes were red as he said, "I'll go down and take a look. If I live, I want to see the person. If I die, I want to see the corpse." Director Sun stopped him and said, "You have the gold spirit root, and I have the water spirit root. It's better for me to go down and take a look." Just as the two of them were arguing, Director Ren pointed to the distance and said, "Look. The one lying on the back of that sawtooth lake dolphin seems to be Martial Uncle Yen." Everyone looked in the direction he pointed and saw a huge sawtooth lake dolphin swimming towards them. There was a person lying on its back, and from the looks of it, the figure was indeed very similar to Yen Qingcheng. Everyone immediately became excited and wanted to go into the water to save her. However, they were afraid that they would anger the sawtooth lake dolphin, so they could only watch nervously as the sawtooth lake dolphin gradually approached the lakeside. A few feet away from the lakeside, the sawtooth lake dolphin suddenly exerted force, and the little girl on its back was thrown to the lakeside. President Gu and the others quickly caught her and looked closely. It was the martial Uncle Yen that they had been longing for. However, Yen Qingcheng was now in a terrible situation. Her head had become bald, and her eyebrows had been chopped off. The clothes on her body seemed to be newly put on. Even so, fresh blood continued to seep out, and her face was as pale as snow. If it weren't for the fact that she was still breathing slightly, she would really be no different from a dead person. President Gu and the others hurriedly stuffed all kinds of high-quality pills into her mouth. The eyes of the few old men were all red. Martial Uncle Yen was doing this to save them. If it weren't for Martial Uncle Yen sacrificing himself for others and drawing the heavenly lightning onto himself, they would have been struck to death long ago. They were so heartless in the past. They didn't expect that not only did Martial Uncle Yen not hold a grudge against them, he even risked his life to save them. It really made them feel ashamed. After a long while, He Xinjiu opened her eyes and said with difficulty, You are also dead? No, I couldn't save you. You, Immerse." President Gu and the others were stunned at first, then they were so moved that they almost howled. Director Zhao said with 2 lines of tears, "Martial Uncle Yen, don't worry. We are all fine. You are not dead. We are still alive." Yin Shijia's eyes lit up. "It's good that you're alive." After saying that, he choked and fainted again. Before He Xinjiu fainted, she caught a glimpse of Ding Wenru, who was unconscious, and her heart skipped a beat. However, seeing that she seemed to be fine, she held back her question. President Gu and the others were both touched and anxious. In the end, they had no choice but to carry He Xinjiu and Ding Wenru back to the upper house. After another round of busywork, they finally heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that their lives were safe. However, how did Yen Qingcheng keep her life? How did she end up being carried back by the sawtooth lake dolphin? The few of them could not figure out anything at the moment. They could only wait for Yen Qingcheng to wake up before asking her. No matter what, it was good that she was fine. While the few of them were conversing in low voices, they heard He Xinjiu shouting from the bed, "Run! Uncle Master, I'm here to save you. Wang Banyun, come and chop me." At first, everyone thought that she had woken up, but later, they realized that she was talking in her sleep. They were so touched that tears streamed down their faces. Uncle Master Yen had saved them even in their dreams. Their previous actions were worse than pigs and dogs. They had let Uncle Master Yen down. Chapter 60-20 It was so hard to be a bad person after a while. He Xinjiu finally sobered up. President Gu and the others immediately greeted her warmly and almost dug out their hearts. It was rare that He Xinjia's conscience was aching, so she said, "You don't have to feel guilty. In fact, I saved you for my own selfish reasons. Uncle Yen, you don't have to say it. We all know that you said it on purpose so that we wouldn't feel guilty." "Yes, Uncle Master Yen. We all know your painstaking efforts. You don't have to say anything. Just recuperate. Uncle Master Yen, don't we know what kind of person you are? Try this meat porridge. I cooked it for you myself." He Xinjiu, why did no one believe her when she told the truth? It was so hard to be a bad person. He Xinjiu had no choice but to drink a bowl of meat porridge filled with true feelings. Then, she asked, "Why is Sister Ding still unconscious? What happened to her?" She was struck by lightning a few times, but it's not a big deal. She'll probably wake up soon, President Gu said. Yun Shujiao finally put down her worries and sighed. It's all my fault for not being able to protect all of you. Marshal Uncle Yen, your words have made us ashamed. If it weren't for you sacrificing yourself, none of us would have survived. Yes, Marshal Uncle Yen, you are our benefactor. We will remember it. Oh right, Marshal Uncle Yen, how did you resist the heavenly lightning? Why did that sawtooth dolphin carry you back? Yun Shijia's eyes flashed. She looked around and seemed to have something to say. President Gus' heart moved. He asked someone to close the door before asking, Uncle Master Yen, what happened? In the past, he was unwilling to call Yun Shujio Uncle Master Yen for the sake of his face. Now, he was willing to call her Uncle Master Yen. I was afraid of being struck to death by the heavenly lightning, so I swam straight to the bottom of the water. Fortunately, I had a few waterproof beads on me, so I wasn't afraid of the water. I saw a stone cave at the bottom of the lake, and a voice came out from it. It said it was some kind of Tao Tai, and asked me to save it. It promised me a lot of good things. President Gu and the others' faces immediately changed. They all knew that there was a Tao Tai at the bottom of the lake. However, it had been locked up for so long, and this was the first time that someone had heard its voice. It was probably because the seal had been loosened recently, that was why it was able to transmit its voice. What happened after that? Did you agree to it? President Gu asked nervously. Yun Shujio shook her head. I heard that the Tao Tai was an ancient ferocious beast and was a scourge. Of course, I was. However, I felt that I could divert the heavenly lightning and calamity to the east. Therefore, I stayed there without moving. The heavenly lightning indeed struck the stone cave. That was how I managed to keep my little life. President Gu and the others finally understood. No wonder Marshal Uncle Yen could save his life. It turned out that the heavenly lightning struck the seal of Tao Tai. What's the matter with that sawtooth dolphin? Director Zhao asked curiously. Then I don't know. I guess God sent it to save me. Yun Shujio said blankly. In fact, the matter was like this. He Xinjiao was cooking fish and prawns with water to feed Dehua. The unlucky sawtooth dolphin was also knocked out by the heavenly lightning and was almost swallowed alive by Dehua. He Xinjiao felt that if she wanted to become the vice dean, she needed to take in a few underlings in Misty Lake. Therefore, she left the sawtooth dolphin alive and established a temporary contract with it. Chapter 60:21 Poor little cabbage. President Gu and the others could not guess the reason for her blank expression. They could only attribute it to her good luck. However, when President Gu thought about how the heavenly lightning had struck Tao Tai for such a long time, he felt a little uneasy. He said a few words to Yun Shujio perfunctorily and hurriedly left with Director Zhao and the others. When Yun Shujio saw that they had all left, she got off the bed to check on Ding Wenru's condition. This fellow felt a little guilty. Ding Wenru was completely implicated by her. After she checked Ding Wenru's pulse, she heaved a sigh of relief. It was just as President Gu had said. There wasn't much of a problem. She would probably be fine after a good sleep. On the other side, President Gu and the others checked the seal of Tao Tai through the array formation. They only heaved a sigh of relief when they didn't find anything unusual. Then the question came. Why did the heavenly lightning strike them? And why did they look so bitter and vengeful? What did they do wrong? They felt that they had not done anything immoral. The few of them were both confused and terrified. If the heavenly lightning was targeting them, how could they survive? President Gu immediately sent a message to Chu Feng and Zhuang Mu, but it did not succeed. They did not know where the two old men had gone. For the next 2 days, President Gu and the others could not sit still, afraid that another heavenly lightning would strike. He Xinjiao was almost better, but Ding Wenru had not woken up, but there was nothing unusual. He Xinjiao was anxious and guilty. Fortunately, Ding Wenru finally woke up on the 3rd day. Sister Ding, you finally woke up. You scared me to death. It's all my fault for implicating you this time. I'm sorry. Before He Xinjiu could finish her sentence, Ding Wenru interrupted her. Qingcheng, do we still need to talk about such formalities between us? If it weren't for you, I would have died countless times. Moreover, it seems that I've gotten a blessing in disguise. Yun Shujiu immediately widened her eyes. What do you mean? Ding Wenru said excitedly, when Master Zhuang taught me how to refine weapons, he once sighed and said that although I have a fire spiritual root, the purity of my spiritual root is not high. I'm afraid that I won't be able to go far in the future. However, after I was struck by lightning this time, my fire spiritual root has actually become much purer. Moreover, there are faint signs of a breakthrough. Yun Shujiu, this was the real daughter of Tian Dao. Just as this fellow was lamenting, Ding Wenru sat up and began to cross-legged meditate. She was really going to break through. He Xinjiu could only stand guard at the door to protect Ding Wenru. This fellow felt that he was as pitiful as a cabbage in the ground. She was putting on an act and trying to trick her. It was not easy for her to absorb some heavenly lightning and break through to the fourth layer of the spirit summoning realm. Ding Wenru was struck by the lightning and she was able to purify her spirit root and break through. It was truly infuriating. Could it be that she had committed too many sins in her past life and that was why she was being abused so inhumanely in this life? De Hua sensed her thoughts and raised 4 pig trotters to express his agreement. This was karma. It couldn't care less about the other victims, but it had been ruined by this wretched girl in her previous life. Not only had she been single for more than 10,000 years, but she had also given up her freedom and body. The sins that she had committed were uncountable. Of course, this fellow was only thinking about it secretly. He didn't dare to let He Xinjiu know. After all, he still had to rely on her to support him. He Xinjiu saw that Ding Wenru was about to break through. She pondered for a moment and gave up on the idea of pretending to have an epiphany. Every time she was struck by lightning, she would have an epiphany and level up. It was really a little suspicious. It would not be too late to look for an opportunity to break through in the future. Chapter 6022 Uncle Master Yan's request. An hour later, Ding Wenru's body shimmered as she successfully advanced. However, she continued to meditate. It was obvious that she was going to advance continuously. Although He Xinjiu felt a little sour, she was genuinely happy for Ding Wenru. She hoped that the people around her who were on good terms with her would become better and better. Ding Wenru had suffered a lot following her. Not to mention other things, just the abuse, contempt, and isolation were things that ordinary people could not accept. This was also one of the reasons why Gu Lianyi and Qin Linglong gave up on coming to the upper house. Moreover, Ding Wenru had helped her cover up a lot. Without Ding Wenru's cooperation, she would not be able to complete many things smoothly. President Gu and the others also rushed over when they heard the commotion. When they saw Ding Wenru's condition, they also felt sour in their hearts. They were also struck by lightning. Why did Ding Wenru break through one after another, but they were struck in vain? However, when they saw He Xinjiu's miserable state, the sour feeling in their hearts instantly disappeared. Martial Uncle Yan was even more miserable than them. Ding Wenru's luck was really good. No wonder she was accepted by the 2 grand elders. She was indeed outstanding. Ding Wenru's breakthrough this time lasted for several hours, and only stopped after she broke through to the 2nd layer of the divine summoning. President Gu and the others exchanged a few sour pleasantries before asking Yun Shujiu, Martial Uncle Yan, we originally wanted to contact the 2 grand elders, but we couldn't get in touch. What do you think of the heavenly lightning this time? We couldn't figure out the reason for the heavenly lightning. Yun Shujiu touched her chin. Could it be that it came for the seal of Tao Tai? Did it miss? President Gu and the others shook their heads repeatedly. The heavenly lightning would not randomly strike the wrong place. If it missed, why would it chase after them? Yun Shujiu looked at them meaningfully. If it's not for this reason, Could it be that you have done something wicked and unethical? President Gu and the others shook their heads like a rattledrum. Although they had some thoughts, they had never done anything wicked. Forget it. If you can't guess, don't guess. It's not a big deal anyway. If there's a heavenly lightning strike next time, it'll help you resist it. Anyway, I seem to be able to resist it, Yun Shujio said casually. President Gu and the others finally realized what was going on. Huh. That's right. This Yen Qingsheng had a fire spirit root, and her cultivation was not high. Although she had been struck quite badly, she seemed to be able. What was going on? Yun Shujio seemed to have seen through their doubts and explained, the reason is very simple. I have a treasure that my master gave me for self-defense. Only then did everyone come to a sudden realization. They had just said that how could Yen Qingsheng be able to withstand more strikes than them? So it turned out that she had relied on the treasure that the two elders had given her. Martial Uncle Yen, this time, I really want to thank you for standing up for me. If you have any requests, feel free to mention them. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it, Director Zhao said sincerely. Yes, Martial Uncle Yen, you must not stand on ceremony. Our lives were saved by you. I will agree to whatever conditions you propose, Director Sun echoed. The other chancellors also echoed him, eager to dig out their hearts. Yun Shujio frowned and pondered for a moment, then sighed, I am not greedy, nor am I greedy. The corners of President Gu and the others' mouths twitched. Don't you feel guilty for saying that? Yun Shujio continued, and I am not greedy. I really don't have any requests. However, when I think of what happened at the banquet these 2 days, I feel that you are all red in the face because of the vice president. I am really worried that it will destroy the stability and unity of the academy. Therefore, leave the hot potato of the vice dean to me. Chapter 60-23, Worse than pigs and dogs. Hearing Yun Shujio's words, President Gu and the others were stunned. They didn't know what she meant. Uncle Master Yen, do you want to say that you will decide who will be the vice president? President Gu probed. Hei Xinjiu rolled her eyes in her heart, but she showed a helpless expression on her face. I mean that I will be the vice president. I don't want to be the vice dean, but I've thought about it again and again. No matter which of the 6 martial nephews will be the vice dean, the other 5 will feel unbalanced. If they feel unbalanced, they will inevitably feel resentful, which will affect their stability and unity. However, the position of vice dean cannot be left vacant all the time. After a long time, the minds of the vice-chancellors and the others below you might be active. They must be settled as soon as possible. As your martial uncle, I will naturally help you solve your problems. Therefore, I will reluctantly assume the position of vice principal. President Gu and the others immediately widened their eyes and gaped. What? She wanted to be the vice principal? What kind of joke was this? How could a student like her become the vice principal? President Gu frowned. Martial Uncle Yen, your suggestion is inappropriate. You are still a student, how can you assume the position of vice principal? That's right, Martial Uncle Yen. Although you have good intentions, this matter isn't very appropriate, Headmaster Ren echoed. The others also echoed. They couldn't help but wonder in their hearts. Martial Uncle Yen had worked so hard to save them previously. Could it be that he was fighting for the vice principal position? If that was the case, he really didn't care about his own life. To think that they were so moved. It turned out that there was profit to be made. Sigh. You guys really let me down. I know what you guys are thinking. Do you think that I saved you all just for this vice principal? A sparrow knows the ambition of a swan. You guys can't even compare to a sparrow. You're just a bunch of moths. What status do I have? I'm the personal disciple of 2 supreme elders. Do I need the support of a position like the vice principal? If I wanted to extort favors in return, would have just asked you to give me something good. Why would I need a vice dean who is famous but has no power? Unfortunately, my painstaking efforts were misunderstood by you to this extent. Forget it, forget it, forget it, forget it. Forget it, forget it, forget it. I will let you break your heads over this lousy position. Even if you beg me, I will not be this lousy vice dean anymore. I'll be whoever I want to be. Get out of here, don't be an eyesore here. Yun Shijia's face was filled with dissap. Her eyes were red as she turned around, leaving only the back of her head for President Gu and the others. Ding Wenru knew that it was time for her to make her appearance, so she angrily said, "You guys have gone too far. Qingcheng's good intentions have been treated like a donkey's liver and lungs by you guys. If Qingcheng wanted to be the vice dean, she could have just begged our master directly. Why would she have to sacrifice her own life in exchange for it?" Taking 10,000 steps back, wasn't she afraid that the vice dean would be struck to death by the heavenly lightning without being treated as such? How stupid would she have to be to do this? You guys should leave. Our primal institution doesn't welcome you guys, so don't come here again in the future. President Gu and the others thought about it and agreed. Yan Qingqing didn't know that there was a Tao Tai's seal at the bottom of the lake, so how could it be a plan? It seemed that they had judged a gentleman with their petty hearts. When they saw the back of Yun Shijia's bald head and her slightly trembling body, their hearts were filled with guilt and self-blame. They were simply not human. They actually used their dirty hearts to think about Marshal Uncle Yan's painstaking efforts. They were truly worse than pigs and dogs. Chapter 60-24 agreed to become the vice principal. President Gu and the others looked at each other. President Gu said embarrassedly, "Marshal Uncle Yan, we were wrong. We should understand your painstaking efforts." Director Zhao's face was full of shame. "Marshal Uncle Yan, we have wronged you. You should be the vice principal." The others also echoed and agreed to let Yun Shujiu be the vice principal. Yun Shujiu turned around. Her eyes were as red as a rabbit's, but her tone was very cold. "How can I be the vice president? Just treat it as if I was talking in my sleep. You guys can go, I need to rest. Uncle Master Yan, we misunderstood you before. You should be the vice president." President Gu said hurriedly. Yun Shujiu shook her head. "I, Yan Qingcheng, have always been above board. I was wrong in thinking before so that I wouldn't be exposed. I won't be the vice president no matter what. You guys can leave now." President Gu and the others wanted to persuade her again, but they saw Yun Shijia's body tremble and she spat out a mouthful of blood. Ding Wenru hurriedly went forward to support her. Her eyes were red as she roared, "Get out! All of you get out! Qingqing has put in so much effort for you, but she has raised a bunch of ingrates like you." Ding Wenru helped Yun Shujiu into the inner room and then kicked President Gu and the others out. Bang! The gate of the primeval institution was closed. Ding Wenru lowered her voice and asked He Xinjiu, "Qingqing, why didn't you agree just now? Don't you want to be the vice president anymore?" He Xinjiu said indistinctly while nibbling on the spirit fruit, "Don't worry. They will definitely come and beg me to be the vice president. I still have to continue taking chow. Only in this way will they believe that I'm the vice president for their own good." Although Ding Wenru didn't believe it, she thought of Yun Shijia's great achievements and didn't ask any more questions. On the other side, President Gu and the others who had been kicked out all blushed and felt ashamed. Director Zhao and the others were filled with regret. How could they have wronged Marshal Uncle Yan in a moment of confusion? If she had really planned it out, why would she reject their proposal so resolutely? If she had known earlier, she would have agreed to it directly. At least she would be much better as the vice president than the others. President Gu was also very regretful. It was much better for Yan Qingqing to be the vice principal than the other 6. Why didn't he react earlier? When they thought about how Marshal Uncle Yan was angered to the point that he vomited blood, they felt both guilty and afraid. If the 2 grand elders were to return, wouldn't they be skinned? After a discussion, the current plan was to think of a way to get Marshal Uncle Yan to accept the position of vice principal. Martial Uncle Yen was the most soft-hearted. After a few more attempts of persuasion, she would be able to calm down and accept it. Therefore, for the next 2 days, President Gu and the others came to persuade her once a day. They were only a step away from kneeling down and begging He Xinjiu to accept the position of vice president. He Xinjiu still refused them sternly, looking as if her heart had been broken. It was not until the 3rd day, when President Gu and the others came to persuade her again, that she sighed, "I am the most soft-hearted person. I have already made up my mind not to be the vice president, but since you are so sincere, in order not to make things difficult for you, I will agree to it. However, let's be honest. You begged me to be the vice principal. I didn't force you to do it. Don't go back on your words in the future." "Of course. Martial Uncle Yen, don't worry. We all know that we were wrong. We won't misunderstand you in the future," Director Zhao said with a confident look. The others also expressed their views. At this moment, in their hearts, Martial Uncle Yen was a fair and kind girl. Whatever she said was right. Chapter 60-25 The death of Xiao Lianxiao. The next morning, an explosive news swept across the entire 10 Directions Academy. Did you see the announcement? That Yen Qingqing from the primeval branch has actually become the vice president of the academy. This vice president is not only the vice president of the upper academy, but also the vice president of the entire academy. This is simply nonsense. That Yen Qingqing is still a freshman. How did she become the vice president? You don't know this, right? That Yen Qingqing is the disciple of the 2 supreme elders. Her seniority is 1 generation higher than President Gus. It's probably the help of the 2 supreme elders. She really got lucky. Shit, luck. She actually clung onto these 2 thick legs. In the future, she can do whatever she wants in the academy. When Xiao Lianxiao and Jian Zhuyu heard the news, they almost died from anger. They felt that this must be a rumor. This is simply impossible. How did that trash become the vice president of the academy? She must have used some unspeakable means to trick him. Jian Zhuyu smashed the things in the dormitory into pieces. Then, she took out a voice transmission talisman and sent a message to someone. Her face was full of ruthlessness. Xiao Lianxiao immediately went to see Vice Director Xiao. "Second uncle, what's going on? How did that Yen Qingqing become the vice president?" Vice Director Xiao sighed. "Time and fate. Lianxiao, you can't beat her. Don't provoke her in the future." The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor bug said these words from the bottom of its heart. It wasn't that it was kind, but it felt that Xiao Lianxiao was too stupid, so stupid that it couldn't bear to look at her. Xiao Lianxiao wasn't willing to listen. She gritted her teeth and said, "No, I can't let that trash be so proud. I want to send a message to grandfather and ask him to find a way to vent my anger. I want to cut that slut into 1,000,000 pieces to vent my anger and let her die a horrible death." The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor saw her stubbornness and thought, originally, it wanted to find an excuse to secretly turn into a bug egg. Now that this Xiao Lianxiao wanted to die, then it would send her on her way. Thus, he sighed. "Lianxiao, don't send a message first. In a few days, it will be a rest day. I'll think of a way to bring you back with me. There are some things that are better said in person." Naturally, Xiao Lianxiao couldn't ask for more. She immediately agreed and left. The 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor bug, on the other hand, explained the matter to Yun Chuzhou through spiritual sense. Yun Chuzhou was now the vice president, so there was no need for Vice President Xiao. After hearing the 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor bug's plan, she pondered for a moment and said, "Think of a way to frame Jian Zhuyu and then find a place to hide. When the time comes, I'll use my identity as the vice president of the 10 Directions Academy to investigate the case and bring you back." After hearing Yun Chujia's plan, the 1,000-year corpse turtle emperor bug could not help but curse in its heart. It thought that it was bad enough, but it did not expect this pervert to be even worse than it was. The 1,000-year corpse turtle Emperor Bug did as Yunchujiu said and thought of a way to provoke Xiao Lianxiao. Sure enough, Xiao Lianxiao and Jian Zhuyu had a big fight. Although they did not fight, the commotion was not small. 2 days later, Director Xiaofu and Xiao Lianxiao left the Academy of 10 Directions. Although students were not allowed to leave the academy except for the trial, Director Xiaofu naturally had special privileges. No one had any objections to bringing Xiao Lianxiao home. However, no one expected that a few days later, the news of Director Xiaofu and Xiao Lianqiao's deaths would spread. It turned out that 3 days ago, the Xiao family received a distress call from Director Xiaofu. They said that they were besieged by the Jian family and then lost contact. When the Xiao family rushed to the scene of the accident, even their bodies were not found. Later, using the special methods of the Xiao family, they found the storage rings of the 2 demon beasts. Chapter 60-26 The Xiao family's Jian family dispute. This matter could be said to have shocked half of the divine enlightenment continent. After all, the Xiao family and the Jian family were both large families, and each of them had quite a bit of influence in the Myriad City Alliance and the Iron Blood Alliance. Therefore, President Gu personally went to the location of the incident, and He Xinjiu, the newly appointed vice president, also eagerly followed him. In addition, several major forces also sent people over. If it weren't for everyone stopping him, Patriarch Xiao would have immediately gone after Patriarch Jian. What he loved the most was his granddaughter, Xiao Lianxiao, and his second son, Vice Director Xiaofu. He didn't expect that they would all be killed by the Jian family. How could he not be angry? Patriarch Jian was also very troubled. Although the Jian family and the Xiao family weren't on good terms, they really didn't do this. Family head Xiao, how could our Jian family kill Deputy Director Zaifa's uncle and nephew for no reason? There must be someone else who killed them. Family head Jian explained. Family head Xiao's eyes were red. Before my son died, he clearly asked us for help. He was ambushed by your Jian family. Even if you explain yourself, it's useless. Moreover, I heard that 2 days before they set off, Lian Xiao and your Jian family's Jian Zhuyu had an argument. It must be because of this matter that your Jian family harbored a grudge, so they killed my son and Lian Xiao. Today, you either hand over Jian Zhuyu and pay with your life, or wait to be exterminated. As the suspected, behind-the-scenes murderer, Jian Zhuyu naturally came. She immediately said with an aggrieved face, Senior Xiao, although I had an argument with Sister Lian Xiao, it was just a small quarrel. Moreover, our 2 families have always stayed out of each other's way. Even if I was muddle-headed, my grandfather wouldn't do such a muddle-headed thing. You are currently in a fit of anger. When you calm down, you will realize that something is amiss. If our Jian family were to make a move, how could we leave such a huge flaw? This is clearly someone framing our Jian family. Jian Ziyu's words were reasonable, but family head Xiao was about to go crazy from anger. How could he listen to her words? He immediately said angrily, You ruthless bitch. You still have the audacity to quibble even now? We found out that a group of Jian family guards left the Jian family just 2 days ago, heading in this direction. You should know that your Jian family's sphere of influence is not here. Why did you send people here? What explanation do you have? Jian Ziyu's expression immediately changed. She had mobilized those guards to find an opportunity to deal with Yan Qingsheng, but could she tell the truth? If she told the truth, she would not be able to stay in the 10 Directions Academy. No matter how scheming she usually was, she did not know how to explain herself at this time. Seeing her like this, the Xiao family head was even more certain that she was involved in this matter. He directly slapped Jian Zhuyu with his palm. The Jian family head naturally would not sit idly by. He immediately received the slap from the Xiao family head. Seeing that the 2 of them were about to fight, the representatives of the other forces tried to mediate. The Xiao family head's eyes were red as he roared, Everyone, I believe that everyone already knows what is right and wrong. Today, I will say this. If the Jian family doesn't give our Shao family justice, this matter will not end. The Jian family head didn't show any weakness. Shao, this matter has nothing to do with our Jian family. Don't slander us. Seeing that the two of them were about to fight again, the crowd had no choice but to separate them to prevent them from fighting again. President Gu could not help but feel a headache. Both the dead and the suspected targets were from the 10 Directions Academy. If it was not resolved properly, the Shao family would inevitably vent their anger on the 10 Directions Academy. What should he do? Moreover, even if there was no such thing, the 6 major factions were still at odds with each other. President Gu could not help but feel admiration in his heart when he saw everyone's reaction. Martial Uncle Yen was indeed powerful. In just a few words, he had resolved the situation in front of him and had even drawn the fire onto the Divine Devil Hall. As the saying goes, if a fellow Daoist dies, the poor Daoist will not die. In any case, the Divine Devil Hall was not a good thing. Letting them take the blame was a good choice. Moreover, this matter might really have been done by them. Patriarch Jian glanced at the purple-masked man from the Divine Devil Hall, then cupped his fists towards Patriarch Shao. Patriarch Shao, what President Gu said is not without reason. We must not be treated as fools by others. I can swear in public that if this matter was done by my Jian family, I will be cut into 1,000 pieces and not have a good ending. Patriarch Shao had also calmed down at this time. After hearing what Patriarch Jian said, he thought about it again and realized that there was indeed something fishy about this matter. He said with a cold face, no matter what, your Jian family is the biggest suspect in this matter. I will give you 1 month. If you can prove your innocence, then it's fine. Otherwise, this matter will not be over. Although Patriarch Jian was very angry, he could only nod and agree. He also did not like Jian Zhuyu. If she had not found trouble to quarrel with Shao Lianxiao and sent guards, their Jian family would not have been splashed with dirty water. Chapter 60-28 Wu Zhao's eldest nephew Jian Zhuyu felt her grandfather's disgusted gaze. She was both afraid and hateful. She hated the dead Shao Lianxiao and hated the mastermind behind the scenes. She also hated Yan Qingcheng. She felt that if Yan Qingcheng had not provoked her, she would not have sent guards. Therefore, Yan Qingcheng could not escape the blame. There were people like this in this world. They would always blame others for the cause. Moreover, they even felt that they were very innocent and very reasonable. Since the matter had come to an end temporarily, there was no need for everyone to stay here. However, Master Wu Zhao of the 10,000 Buddhas temple frowned. He kept twirling the Buddha beads in his hand, Amitabha. This penniless monk feels that the corpse aura here is a bit heavy. It's similar to the corpse aura in the bloodthirsty insect valley. He Xinjia's heart skipped a beat. Did the old monk discover the eggs of the little grasshopper? The grasshopper's eggs were hidden deep underground. How could he have discovered them? He Xinjiu hurriedly asked the grasshopper to restrain its aura so that it would not lose its life. Master Wuzhou's words did not resonate with the others. After all, only Master Wu Ben cultivated Buddhist energy. The others did not notice anything unusual at all. Master Wu Zhao, these 2 storage rings must have been contaminated with corpse qi. That's right. Someone died here, so naturally, there's corpse qi. Master Wu Zhao frowned again. Could it be that he had sensed wrongly? That's right. This was just a dense forest. If there was anything abnormal, it would have attracted attention long ago. When he tried to sense again, he found that there was nothing abnormal. Perhaps the corpse qi he sensed just now was really the corpse qi left on the storage ring. Amitabha. Maybe this penniless monk sensed wrongly. I'm sorry. The crowd did not mind it. After a few polite words, they left the place one after another. He Xinjiu was afraid that the little grasshopper would be discovered by Master Wu Ben, so she told the little grasshopper to wait patiently until she found an opportunity to come and pick it up. The little grasshopper said aggrievedly, then you have to hurry up. I haven't absorbed corpse chi for a long time. I'm starving to death. Hei Shinjo was so angry that she ate and ate. Other people raised helpers, but she raised a group of foodies. Who did she look like? Yun Shujo originally planned to look for an opportunity to come back and dig up the little grasshopper after Master Wu Zhao left. She didn't expect that Master Wu Zhao didn't leave even after everyone else had left. He put his palms together and said to President Gu, President Gu, I heard that there is a pond of smoke and cloud powder in the 10 Directions Academy. I'd like to take a look. Is it convenient for me? Hei Xinjia's heart skipped a beat. It was not convenient at all. However, she was saddened to hear President Gu say happily, I'd love to. You're most welcome. Hei Shinjo cursed in her heart. This old monk was really shameless. Couldn't he just stay in his 10,000 Buddha sacred palace? Why was he wandering around? If he had been following her, how could she go back to pick up the little grasshopper? Sensing her thoughts, the little grasshopper cried, Master, you can't leave me alone. I'm just an egg now. Anyone can eat me. Please come and save me. Hei Shinjo rolled her eyes and finally thought of an idea. Nephew Wu Zhao, I heard that the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall is very interesting. Can you tell me about the interesting things in the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall? Hei Shinjo said with a smile. Master Wu Zhao staggered and almost threw out the Buddha bead in his hand. Master Wu Zhao and the others had long noticed the little girl behind President Gu and guessed her identity. However, no one revealed her identity and no one greeted her. The reason was very simple. This guy's seniority was too high. No one wanted to be shorter than her, so they pretended not to see her. Who would have thought that this guy actually didn't know what was good for him and took the initiative to strike up a conversation? He even called him Wu Zhao's nephew. Chapter 60-29, Cultivation isn't good enough. Master Wu Zhao didn't know whether to agree or not. He could only look at President Gu, hoping that he could help him out. President Gu understood what he meant, but he didn't mean to help. Are you kidding me? I already called you Martial Uncle, what else do you have? Seeing that President Gu had no intention of helping him out, Master Wu Zhao held the Buddhist beads silently and pretended that he didn't hear Hei Xinjia's words. He thought that Yun Shujo would be tactful enough to keep quiet if he did that. Unexpectedly, Hei Shinjo jumped in front of him and said, Wu Zhao, didn't you hear what I said? Tell me about the fun things in the 10,000 Buddha's temple. Master Wu Zhao felt that his cultivation was not high enough. Otherwise, why would he want to kill the little girl in front of him? Amitabha. Guilty. Master Wu Zhao felt that the little girl would still be chattering if he did not speak. Therefore, he pressed his palms together and said, Amitabha. The 10,000 Buddha's temple is a place of worship. There is nothing interesting that Benefactor Yen said. Master Wu Zhao felt that he was too smart. He had actually thought of the title Benefactor Yen and solved the problem of the title skillfully. While he was secretly proud of himself, he heard Hei Shinjo ask, Nephew Wu Zhao, according to what you said, isn't life in the temple of 10,000 Buddhas very boring? Master Wu Zhao echoed subconsciously, yes, it is indeed very boring. Hei Shinjo clicked her tongue and sighed. Nephew Wu Zhao, I don't mean to criticize you as an elder, but your cultivation is still not high enough. You are a monk. How can you say that paying respects to Buddha is boring? You are blaspheming Buddha and slandering those who practice Buddhism. Master Wu Zhao, who was he? Where was he? What was he doing? How could he be labeled as such in his confusion? That's not what I meant, then what do you mean? Didn't you say that paying respects to Buddha is boring? Am I slandering you? Nephew Wu Zhao, I don't think you should go to the academy to see the smoke cloud powder lotus. You'd better go back to the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall and repent in front of Buddha. Master Wu Zhao was confused by Hei Shinjo. He didn't know how to explain it. He didn't think so. How did it become like this in the mouth of this little girl? Hei Shinjo looked at Master Wuzho's dumbfounded face and felt proud. You can't die of anger. Hurry up and get lost. I don't want to delay catching the little grasshopper. Just as Hei Shinjo was feeling proud, she saw Master Wuzhou put his palms together and said with an enlightened look on his face, Almsgiver, your words make sense. It seems that this penniless monk has misjudged you. Although the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall has strict laws, there are still some interesting things. I'll tell Almsgiver Yen about them on the way. Hey Shinjo, he didn't leave in anger? Wasn't this old monk's temper too good? This fellow didn't dare to go too far. Although he had 2 masters to protect him, the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall wasn't someone to be trifled with. Yun Shujo was burning with anxiety. If this old monk didn't get lost, how was she going to receive the little grasshopper? She thought for a long time and finally came up with an idea. With a sorrowful expression, she said to President Gu, President, Vice President Xiao's sudden misfortune is truly sorrowful. Why don't we pay our respects on the spot? It won't be a waste of our time together. Hei Shinjo usually addressed President Gu as president in front of outsiders. It could be considered as giving him face. Upon hearing this, President Gu agreed without much hesitation. Although Vice President Xiao hadn't been very good in the past, his recent performance had been pretty good. He hadn't expected that he would die right after turning over a new leaf. What a pity. Chapter 60:30 looked silly. President Gu thought that Hei Shinjo only said a few words with a bow. Who would have thought that this guy would actually take out paper candles and other things, and even put up a small mound like he was serious? Hei Shinjo sighed. Although Marshal Nephew Xiao and I are not on good terms, I am an elder after all. I sincerely hope for his well-being. I didn't expect Marshal Nephew Xiao to die at such a young age. It really makes me sad. As he spoke, his eyes reddened, and he looked very sad. President Gu could not help but sigh in his heart. In the past, Vice-Chancellor Xiao had often made things difficult for Senior Marshal Uncle Yen because of Xiao Lianxiao, but she had let bygones be bygones. She was really too kind. While he was sighing, he heard Hei Shinjo mutter to herself, "It's just a pity that I didn't have the time to ask the monk to help him cross over. It's really a pity." When the guy said that, his eyes fell on Master Wuzhou. Master Wuzhou immediately had a bad feeling. Before he could think about it, Hei Shinjo said sincerely, "Master Wuzhou, I'm sorry that I didn't ask for your help. Nephew Wuzhou, you have nothing better to do. Why don't you help Junior Xiao cross over?" Master Wuzhou felt that he was about to break his precepts. He really wanted to scold someone. It was true that he was a Buddhist cultivator, but with his status, was he going to let someone cross over casually? Moreover, the Xiao family would definitely organize a funeral. What was this little girl doing here? Master Wuzhou was just about to find an excuse to reject when he heard that little girl say, "Sigh, forget it. I reckon that the Xiao family will invite someone to cross over. It's better not to trouble you, Nephew Wuzhou. Well, since you're not going to help Junior Nephew Xiao, you can wait for us over there." Master Wuzhou could not wait to be further away from the place and walked away immediately. Hei Shinjo felt that the distance was not far enough, but she could not say it out loud. Therefore, she began to howl. "My junior nephew Xiao, why did you leave just like that? How are we going to live now? My junior nephew Xiao, you left so miserably. You didn't even leave your corpse intact. How can I bear it? My junior nephew Xiao, take your time on the road to the netherworld. Be careful not to fall. Otherwise, you will be reincarnated as a pig in your next life." The corner of President Gus' mouth was twitching non-stop. He could not stand it any longer. "Junior Uncle Yen, is that okay?" Hei Shinjo wiped her tears carelessly. "What's fine about it? I still need to talk to junior nephew Xiao for a while. Take the others and wait by the side. My junior nephew." What a joke. If he continued to listen, he might laugh out loud. That would be awkward. Seeing that President Gu had come over, Master Wu Zhao walked further away tacitly. Master Wu Zhao looked at the crying He Xinjiu and asked President Gu tentatively, "This new disciple of the two grand elders of the 10 Directions Academy is really, really special." President Gus's face stiffened and he said dryly, "Although Senior Uncle Yen is a bit out of character, she is very kind. I heard that she became the vice president of your academy. Isn't she still a student? How did she become the vice president?" Master Wu Zhao asked curiously. Although Uncle Master Yen is still a student, he has a good view of the big picture. That's why we chose her to be the vice president, President Gu said vaguely. Seeing that Master Wu Zhao didn't want to say more, Master Wu Zhao didn't ask further. However, he thought that President Gu was quite smart in the past. Why did he look silly now? Chapter 60:31 did not believe a single word. He Xinjiu caught a glimpse of President Gu and Master Wu Zhao from the corner of her eye. Using the cover of her sleeve, she put the little grasshopper egg that had rolled up with great difficulty into the spirit beast bag. Although this thing should be called a worm egg, it looked no different from an ordinary spirit beast egg. However, the eggshell was black, like a coal ball. He Xinjiu did not have the time to look carefully at the grasshopper egg. She only heaved a sigh of relief when she saw that Master Wu Zhao did not have any reaction from the corner of her eye. The guy howled a few more times, burned a few pieces of paper, and stood up. The guy walked to President Gu and the others with red and swollen eyes. President Gu was about to comfort her, but she said, "President Gu, I'm sorry for your loss. I believe that junior nephew Xiao doesn't want us to be too sad. If we break down because of our sadness, junior nephew Xiao will feel uneasy. Therefore, we have to keep our spirits up. The dead have passed, and life still has to go on. We still have to move on." President Gu, seeing this, Master Wu Zhao thought that this little girl was quite capable. She had been howling so miserably just a moment ago, but now it seemed that nothing had happened. With the spiritual beast bag isolating them, He Xinjiu was not afraid that Master Wu Zhao would discover the corpse qi leaked out from the little grasshopper egg. Thus, it was much easier for her to walk. Everyone left the no-fly zone and returned to the 10 Directions Academy by flying spiritual device. He Xinjiu ate a few spiritual fruits to replenish her strength. Then, her gaze fell on Master Wu Zhao, who was talking to President Gu. This fellow rolled his eyes a few times and felt that it was not a bad thing for Master Wu Zhao to go to the 10 Directions Academy. She was worried that she could not get along with the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, but this old monk came to her own door. It was really a good time. Master Wu Zhao could not help but shiver. Why did he feel that the little girl looked at him like a hungry wolf looking at meat? Master Wu Zhao, this is your first time to visit our 10 Directions Academy, right? When we arrive at the academy, I will personally act as your guide. I guarantee that this trip will not be in vain, He Xinjiu said with a smile, like a wolf with a big tail. Master Wu Zhao's heart skipped a beat. This little girl had called him Nephew Wu Zhao before. Why did she call him Master Wu Zhao now? Could it be that she was holding back some bad water? Master Wu Zhao did not believe a single word that President Gu said about a kind and good girl. Because he had finally sorted out the previous. He had only said that there was nothing interesting in the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall, but this little girl had labeled him as a blasphemer of Buddha. How could he be a kind person? Thank you for your kind intentions, almsgiver Yen, but this penniless monk only wants to study the Buddhist theories beside the misty cloud pink lotus. I won't trouble you, almsgiver Yen. He Xinjiu blinked her eyes. It seemed that the old monk had become wary of her. It was all because of that damn little grasshopper. At this moment, the little grasshopper's sobbing voice came from her spiritual perception. Master, help. Help. I'm going to die from egg breakage. He Xinjiu sent her spiritual perception into the spirit beast bag and saw that Butt Face and the others were playing with a ball. Yes, the little grasshopper egg was that ball. Buttface and the others had long disliked the little grasshopper, but it had been possessing Director Xyphus' body, so they had no way to teach it a lesson. Now that they finally had a chance, they naturally wouldn't let it go. The little grasshopper cried out shrilly, "Master, help, help. If I keep kicking, it'll give birth prematurely. Hey Shinjo." Chapter 6032 was for idiots, right? Hey Shinjo stopped Buttface and the others. Only then did the little grasshopper egg fall to the ground in grievance. Sha Mo snorted coldly, "Little girl, you are really unlucky. It was not easy for you to contract a 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor insect, but you were infected with corpse chi. Now, you are even more unlucky. This 1,000-year-old corpse turtle emperor insect has turned into an egg and is completely useless. Ha ha ha, this is karma." Although Yun Shujo had cut off Sha Mo's spiritual sense, with Dog 2 as the snitch, Sha Mo's words were transmitted to Hei Xinjia's ears without missing a single word. Hei Shinjo curled her lips. Sha Mo, this old fool, still didn't know that the corpse chi in her body had been dissolved by Goei Batsao. If he was willing to make sarcastic remarks, then so be it. Hei Shinjo didn't mind, but it didn't mean that Dog 2 and the others didn't mind. They immediately beat Sha Mo up, and even the little grasshopper egg knocked Sha Mo a few times with all its strength. Chi Ying, who was in the corner, felt that the Sha Mo was simply stupid. It was simply looking for trouble. Wasn't it good to be alive? After Hei Shinjo finished dealing with the matters in the spirit beast bag, her attention returned to Master Wu Zhao. Since this old monk was on guard, she couldn't be too hasty. It was better to take things slowly. Therefore, for the next 2 days, Hei Shinjo was very warm and well-behaved. Master Wu Zhao could not help but wonder why this little girl was so different from before. Could it be that she had been overstimulated because of the death of Vice Director Xiaofu, and now she had returned to normal? After everyone returned to the academy, although the Yenyun Pink Lotus that Master Wu Zhao wanted to see was in the lower house, they were first arranged to receive her in the upper house. When Master Wu Zhao saw that Director Zhao and the others were calling Yun Shujo Uncle Master Yen affectionately, he was very puzzled. Were these people really willing to take a little girl as their Uncle Master? And they even gave her such a good position as Vice Director? Thus, while Master Wu Zhao and Director Zhao were chatting at the welcome banquet, he probed, how did that little girl get the position of Vice Director? Could it be that the 2 Grand Elders forced you to agree? Director Zhao's old face, which was originally smiling warmly, immediately drooped down. Master Wu Zhao, what are you talking about? We were all willing to let Martial Uncle Yen be the Vice Director. What does it have to do with the 2 Grand Elders? To think that our Uncle Master Yen specially took care of us and treated you well. I didn't expect you to look at our Uncle Master Yen like th. Master Wu Zhao, these people from the 10 Directions Academy were all fucking idiots, right? Amitba, Sin. Director Zhao did not care about him. He stood up and changed his position, leaving Master Wu Zhao in the same spot. Master Wu Zhao was speechless. He was just curious, so he asked a few more questions. Was it necessary? Fortunately, Director Sun sat next to him, which eased the awkward situation a little. Master Wu Zhao, Director Zhao is just like that. Don't lower yourself to his level. By the way, why is he giving you a look? Director Sun asked curiously. Master Wu Zhao thought that there was finally a normal person in the 10 Directions Academy, so he said, I didn't say anything. I just wanted to ask how that little girl Yen Qingqing became the Vice Director. Did the 2 Grand Elders force you to agree? The enthusiasm on Director Sun's face immediately turned into ice. Master Wu Zhao, your words are a bit too much. No wonder Director Zhao fell out with you. Senior Uncle Yen didn't want to be the vice principal at first, but she only agreed after our repeated requests. How can she force our words? Since you don't know how to speak, you should speak less in the future. Master Wu Zhao. Chapter 6033 Uncle Master Yen. Someone is slandering you. Master Wu Zhao was really curious, so he didn't care about Director Sun's ugly face and asked, "Then tell me, why do you insist on making her vice director?" He didn't believe President Gus' words about seeing the big picture. There must be another reason behind it. Master Wu Zhao wasn't usually so tactless and gossipy, but he was really curious. In addition, he had been called Wu Zhao's nephew by He Xinjiu and reprimanded. He was more or less displeased and wanted to get back at her. Director Sun glanced at Master Wu Zhao and said, "Senior Uncle Yan's seniority is higher than ours, and he is kind. Isn't it natural for him to be the deputy director? What's so strange about that?" Master Wu Zhao, which of these people saw that little girl as kind? However, it was not appropriate for him to ask any more questions. He could only change the topic stiffly and talk about other things. After the banquet ended that day, Director Zhao and Director Sun came to Yunchujiu to complain and scolded Master Wu Zhao. "Tui! What the heck? That old monk came to our place to look at the Yenyun powder lotus. He knows his place and even slandered you, Senior Uncle Yen. I think we should just kick him out." "That's right. That old monk is obviously not a good person. He doesn't have the slightest compassion of a monk. We can just find an excuse to kick him out." He Xinjiu comforted the two of them and gave each of them a pill. Only then did Director Zhao and Director Sun leave happily. Just as the two of them left, Director Ren of the Alchemy Division came. "Marshal Uncle Yen, I have something to report to you," Director Ren said ingratiatingly. He knew that he had offended He Xinjiu many times in the past, so he had come to Yunchujiu many times recently to build a good impression of her. "What is it?" Yunchujiu asked after she let him sit down. Headmaster Ren said angrily, "Didn't you go out with the headmaster these 2 days? Superintendent Zhang of our alchemy division found me and said a lot of slander to you. It's really outrageous. He also showed me the shadow stone that you participated in the assessment. He used it to prove that you were a liar who came to the 10 Directions Academy with bad intentions and a big conspiracy." He Xinjia's heart skipped a beat. She had forgotten about Superintendent Zhang, but she still looked calm. "Oh. How did you deal with it?" Chancellor Ren snorted. "How could I be as short-sighted as him?" Back then, Marshal Uncle Yen had cooperated with him even though he knew it was an illusion array. That meant that Marshal Uncle Yen had a good view of the big picture. In order to avoid any mistakes in the assessment, he had PR. However, not only did he not understand your painstaking efforts, but he also poured dirty water on you. How outrageous. I immediately dismissed his position as the superintendent of the academy. This time, I came to ask for your advice. Should I directly kick him out of the 10 Directions Academy? He Xinjiu touched her nose. That Marshal Nephew Ren. Although that Superintendent Zhang is a little petty, but his motive is also for the good of the academy. I think we should forget about this matter. Headmaster Ren looked at Yunchujiu with even more admiration. Marshal Uncle Yen, you are too kind. He slandered you like this, and you still plead on his behalf? You are really a role model for us. Cough cough. Cough cough. He Xinjiu almost choked to death on her own saliva. It was rare for her conscience to hurt. These old men had been brainwashed too thoroughly by her. They had lost even the most basic concept of right and wrong. Chapter 6034 was different from the past. Chancellor Ren expressed his admiration for He Xinjiu again. In the end, he got a pill and left happily. Ding Wenru opened her mouth wide and gave He Xinjiu a thumbs up. Qingcheng, I admire you so much. They hated you so much before. Why are you so obsequious now? Yunchujiu put her hands behind her back and pretended to be profound. It can't be helped. I'm so outstanding. They were all convinced by my personal charm. Ding Wenru, personal charm? It was more like a conspiracy. The next morning, President Gu personally sent Master Wu Zhao to the lower house. He Xinjiu also went on the boat without an invitation. This fellow was now the vice president, so the rules of the academy naturally did not restrict her. It was simply unimpeded. When she arrived at the lower house, President He of the lower house had already led a group of lecturers to wait respectfully. Everyone looked at He Xinjiu, who had a pretentious look on her face, and their feelings were extremely complicated. Who would have thought that a year ago, this fellow was still an audit student of the lower house, but now he had become the disciple of two supreme elders, and even became the vice president of the academy. It was really different from the past. He Xinjiu nodded to the crowd. She felt as if she had returned home in glory, and her heart was filled with joy. Although this fellow really wanted to show off, but thinking of the purpose of this trip, she could only give up this plan. Anyway, there was still time in the future, and she would have plenty of opportunities to come to the lower house to show off in the future. President He accompanied them to the misty cloud pink lotus pond. Previously, because Yuan Hui wanted to frame Yun Chujiu and the others, he had planted root-eroding powder in the lotus pond. A portion of the misty cloud pink lotus had been lost. After a year of recuperation, it had recovered its former beauty. Master Wu Zhao looked at the lotus pond in front of him. The cowardice he had suffered in the past 2 days had finally lessened a lot, and his state of mind had also calmed down a lot. Amitba, President Gu, everyone, this penniless monk will be meditating and studying here for a few days. I don't need you to accompany me, Master Wu Zhao clasped his hands together and said courteously. President Gu did not intend to accompany him here. After exchanging a few polite words and exhorting President He was about to turn around and leave when he heard He Xinjiu say, President, Master Wu Zhao is a guest. How can there be no one to accompany him? All of you are busy. I have nothing to do on my left and right. I will stay here to accompany Master Wu Zhao. Before President Gu could reply, Master Wu Zhao said hurriedly, I appreciate Benefactor Yan's kindness, but, before he could finish his sentence, He Xinjiu interrupted him, Master Wu Zhao, I know that you are being polite to me. As the saying goes, a guest should follow the host. Don't decline it. President, you can all leave. I promise that I will be able to entertain Master Wu Zhao well. Martial nephew He, you should also go and do your work. Don't disturb us during meditation. Just come and deliver the meal on time. After being called martial nephew He, President He's body immediately trembled. He did not have the awareness of Director Zhao and the others. He wished that he could immediately stay away from He Xinjiu, who pretended to be a big-tailed wolf. Previously, when Superintendent Zhang wanted to expose He Xinjiu, he had even tried to dissuade him. After all, the two grand elders had both accepted Yan Qingsheng as their disciple. How could there be anything bad? However, Superintendent Zhang was determined to go ahead and expose her. In the end, he was dismissed. He did not know if he could keep his position as a lecturer. Therefore, even though he knew that He Xinjiu was full of bad intentions, he did not dare to say anything. After all, things were different now. This person's backer was too strong. After President Gu and the others left, Master Wu Zhao sat cross-legged on the futon and meditated. He closed his eyes and chanted Buddhist scriptures, ignoring He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu rolled her eyes and said to Master Wu Zhao mysteriously, Master Wu Zhao, have you seen Buddha lotus? Chapter 60:35 would not let her have her way. Master Wu Zhao's eyelids fluttered slightly, but he did not open them. He thought that this little girl must have deliberately said this topic to attract his attention. He could not be fooled. Although they had not been in contact for a long time, Master Wu Zhao still felt that the little girl in front of him was very scheming. If she was not scheming, how could she have become the deputy headmaster from the audience of the lower house of the 10 Directions Academy in such a short time? If she was not a scheming person, why would Director Zhao and the others be so protective of her? He was not the fool from the 10 Directional Academy. He had his own judgment. No matter what this little girl was up to, he would not let her succeed. Seeing that Master Wu Zhao did not say anything, Yun Shujiao said smugly, "It seems that you have not seen it, but I have. And there are a lot of them." Master Wu Zhao sneered in his heart. What a bunch of nonsense. The Buddhist lotuses had been extinct for a long time. Not to mention a lot of them, none of them existed. However, he suddenly remembered the little Buddha of loneliness that Yin Chang and the other two had talked about. It was said that they had seen several Buddhist lotuses bloom in the bitter Zen sect at that time. However, with the death of the little Buddha of loneliness, those Buddhist lotuses disappeared in an instant. Master Wu Zhao was skeptical about this. He felt that Yin Chang and the other two were not knowledgeable enough to see the lotus flowers. It might even be an illusion. Seeing that Master Wu Zhao was still ignoring her, He Xinjiu did not say anything else. Seeing that she had finally stopped, Master Wu Zhao began to recite the scriptures silently, pretending that she was not a person. He Xinjiu did not expect to fool Master Wu Zhao right away. She held her chin and thought about her next step. Although she had become the vice president, she didn't have any real power. She had to think of a way to get some real power. Besides, when the two old men came back, she had to consolidate her status as her beloved disciple so that she wouldn't be ostracized if her identity was exposed in the future. She could imagine that President Gu and the others would be furious when they found out that she had a heavenly thunder spirit root. They might even gang up on her. This fellow could not help but shiver at the thought of this and decided not to think about this terrible thing anymore. This fellow's gaze fell on the lotus pond and decided to pick a few lotus pods and eat some lotus seeds to calm himself down. Therefore, this fellow untied the ropes of the small boat in the lotus pond and rowed into the lotus pond. Master Wu Zhao heard the movement and opened his eyes to see her like this. He could not help but wonder what this little girl wanted to do. Seeing He Xinjiu pick a bunch of lotus seeds, he couldn't help but frown. However, the misty cloud pink lotus was the property of the 10 Directions Academy, so he couldn't say anything. Soon, He Xinjiu carried the lotus seeds to the shore with a smile. "Master Wu Zhao, do you want to eat the lotus seeds?" "Master Wu Zhao, what a waste of a heavenly gift." The lotus seeds of the misty cloud pink lotus were excellent ingredients for alchemy. How could she use them as snacks? Seeing that Master Wu Zhao did not say anything, He Xinjiu did not stand on ceremony and began to eat happily. Master Wu Zhao cursed in his heart. He did not know if the two grand elders of the 10 Directions Academy had bad eyesight. This little girl only knew how to eat, drink and have fun all day long. Other than scheming, she had no other advantages. How did she catch the eyes of those two? Just as Master Wu Zhao was cursing in his heart, he heard He Xinjiu yawn. "Master Wu Zhao, you are indeed an eminent monk. I haven't been able to sleep for the past few days. Now that I hear your chanting, I immediately feel sleepy. Keep reading. Don't stop, or I won't be able to sleep well." Chapter 60-36 Sweet Date. Master Wu Zhao almost died from anger when he heard He Xinjiu's words. Was he reciting sutras to give her a peaceful sleep? This little girl was too crafty. Just as he was about to say something, he saw that little girl take out a small tent and actually burrow into it to sleep. Master Wu Zhao felt indignant and even mispronounced the sutras. He hurriedly collected his thoughts. Amitabha. Sin, sin. At this moment, he heard a voice from inside the tent. "Master Wu Zhao, don't stop. Wait until I wake up." Master Wu Zhao felt that his cultivation was most likely not at home. Otherwise, why would he want to curse? It was a daily task to recite the Buddhist scriptures, but now, he felt that he was being forced to do so. Not only was his state of mind not at peace, it was even getting more agitated. In the next 2 days, He Xinjiu caused a lot of trouble for Master Wu Zhao. Sometimes, Master Wu Zhao wanted to rest for a while, but he was so agitated by He Xinjiu that he could only continue to recite the scriptures. There were a few times that Master Wu Zhao wanted to leave directly, but he could not bear to give up this opportunity to study the smoke and cloud powder lotus, so he could only endure it. His impression of Hei Shinjo became even worse. He felt that she was an annoying person, and he wished that she would immediately disappear from his sight. On this day, Master Wu Zhao frowned when he saw Yun Chuzhou approaching him again. "Master Wu Zhao, are you annoying me?" Hei Shinjo blinked and asked. Master Wu Zhao glanced at her but didn't say anything. He thought to himself, "Don't you know what you're doing?" Hei Shinjo gave him a thumbs up. "Master Wu Zhao, you are indeed an eminent monk of the 10,000 Buddha's sacred hall. I have been deliberately making you unhappy these few days just to see what you will do. If it were anyone else, they would have cursed at you a long time ago. But you are unmoved. I admire you very much." Master Wu Zhao was dazed. No wonder the little girl had been making a fuss. She was testing him. Master Wu Zhao could not help but feel a hint of pride. His self-cultivation skills had always been outstanding in the 10,000 Buddhist temple. He deserved her praise. "Master Wu Zhao, I heard people talking about you before, and I was a little indignant, so that's why I made such a fuss. Now it seems that I'm really short-sighted. You are indeed worthy of everyone's praise. Please forgive me if there's anything wrong a few days ago." Yun Chuzhou said sincerely, with a sincere expression on her face. The sweet date given after being slapped was naturally exceptionally sweet. When Master Wu Zhao saw Hei Xinjia's sincere apology, he felt extremely comfortable in his heart. "Benefactor Yan, you don't have to be like this. We monks are benevolent and joyful, and compassionate to relieve suffering. Naturally, we won't take such a small matter to heart. Master Wu Zhao is indeed magnanimous, making me feel ashamed." Hei Shinjo expressed her guilt again, and at the same time, she praised Master Wu Zhao's bodhisattva heart. Master Wu Zhao felt more comfortable than ever. He didn't even hate the little girl anymore. Hei Shinjo changed the topic and said, "Master Wu Zhao, you are very knowledgeable. Do you think there is a Buddha lotus in this world?" Master Wu Zhao was in a good mood, so he said, "Although Buddha lotus used to exist, its beauty has long been extinct. But, I've seen the Buddha lotus with my own eyes in the Chongshao continent before. During the Dharma assembly of the 10,000 Buddhas, the lonely little Buddha turned his Buddha power into a Buddha lotus and even made soup for us to drink." Hei Shinjo said in puzzlement, "You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories."